Chapter 705. Dojo Expansion. It has been 100 years since Li Xuanmiao started calling Guan his master. The human world has not changed much, with life and death occurring daily, while the 100 great sects and the Dao court in the immortal cultivation realm are still in friction, leaving the situation unclear. On this day, after the new year, Guan brought Li Xuanmiao to the dust world, a great thousand world more prosperous than the celestial spirit great world, even hiding an innate golden immortal. He planned for Li Xuanmiao to ascend to immortality in dust world. To this end, he even altered Li Xuanmiao's cause and effect, making him a native creature of dust world. Not only did Li Xuanmiao's karma appear this way, but memories of him also emerged among the great cultivators of the world. Now, Li Xuanmiao is a renowned talent known across dust world. He practically changed the entire dust world's cause and effect, such as the power of a Dao extreme Daoyuo immortal. Even the celestial gods of this world were unaware. At the ocean's edge, on the beach, Li Xuanmiao held the celestial Dao immortal stone, looking at Guan with a serious expression. Guan smiled and said, "Don't worry too much, you've already experienced the trials inside, only this time your opponents are immortal gods. To be cautious, I'll first hide your memories of me, and after you achieve immortality for 10,000 years, these memories will resurface." Li Xuanmiao took a deep breath and nodded slightly. Guan immediately waved his sleeve. A gust of wind sent Li Xuanmiao into a daze. When he regained consciousness, Guan was nowhere to be seen. He looked down at the celestial Dao immortal stone in his hand and immediately probed it with his divine sense. After the time of one stick of incense, the sand beneath his feet suddenly erupted with a skyward blast, shooting straight into the clouds, followed by a brilliant light forming a celestial Dao beam, as spiritual energy in the world frantically surged toward him. He passed the heavenly Dao trial. Beyond the heavens, deep in the cosmos, at the world gate, the celestial god guarding the dust world opened his eyes, displaying a peculiar expression. There are people in this realm who can pass the evaluation of the celestial Dao immortal stone? Impressive. The celestial god muttered to himself, his face showing a look of anticipation. Having an immortal god born in this world also benefits him, as he will receive rewards from the celestial court, and this newly ascended immortal's position will surely be higher than his, possibly allowing them to become acquainted. Many ascended gods and trial gods hold nostalgia, and some great thousand worlds are rich in heritage because of their numerous immortal gods, far surpassing other great thousand worlds. He stood up, intending to go and meet the new immortal god, where he could offer some advice as a form of greeting, establishing familiarity. Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, feeling elated that Li Xuanmiao was about to join the immortal class. It was uncertain what level of celestial Dao immortal position Li Xuanmiao could attain. According to the Eternal Life Venerable, whether by using the Heavenly Dao command or through the celestial Dao immortal stone, the immortal position will be above the celestial gods. The Eternal Life Venerable also listed other methods of achieving immortality, so he would not guess that Guan had a celestial Dao immortal stone in his possession. There are dozens of methods to become immortal, and any path involving the heavenly ascension stairs is a superior one. Most celestial gods are appointed through recommendations from immortal gods or selected from participating in heavenly soldier trials. Even the most gifted among celestial spirit gods, unable to advance through the celestial Dao immortal stone, required recommendations from immortal gods. Talent is the least noticeable in the celestial court because there are so many gifted geniuses aspiring to become immortals. Even the greatest talent in a single great thousand world is considered insignificant within the great Dao. Guan strolled leisurely along the small river in the dojo. Ahead, someone was cultivating by the river. None other than Emperor Tianhong. After many years, Emperor Tianhong had awakened some memories of immortal gods, making him cherish his time cultivating in the Taoist field of the beginningless even more, as he knew he would eventually return to the celestial court. Hearing footsteps, Emperor Tianhong opened his eyes and turned his head, and upon seeing it was Guan, he quickly got up and bowed to Guan. "Continue your cultivation, I'm just taking a stroll." Guan said with a smile. Li Xuanmiao's ascension made him view Emperor Tianhong more favorably. Without necessity, he indeed need not oppose the celestial court, as he preferred peaceful, enlightenment-seeking days over battles and killings. As he passed by Emperor Tianhong, the latter breathed a sigh of relief and continued meditating and cultivating. Despite having spent many years together, he still felt great pressure facing Guan. Guan, hearing his inner thoughts, did not mind much either. As the number of people in the Taoist field of the beginningless grew, he could not befriend every disciple, as that would be too exhausting. Among the third-generation disciples, only Shangguan Xian'er seemed interesting to him, and he was lazy to bother even with Nzazai, whom he had taken to see the world. After walking 100 miles further, Guan saw Lu Zidao, celestial demon child's disciple, sparring with Zhang Lan, and Xin's second disciple, in swordsmanship. The two used neither mana nor divine skills, only exchanging sword techniques, their movements sharp and swift. Upon noticing Guan approaching, their faces changed, intending to stop, but Guan's voice reached them. "Don't stop, I'm just passing through." The Novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hearing this, Lu Zidao and Zhang Lan's eyes sharpened, and their movement techniques became even faster. The third-generation disciples all wanted to win Guan's favor, and they took this rare opportunity to showcase their talent in front of him more earnestly. Guan bypassed them and entered the mountains and forests. If the dojo's disciples reach 100 in the future, it might need expanding. Guan silently contemplated, as high realm disciples' combat would inevitably have a broad impact, even if restrained. Expanding the dojo required a lifespan. He planned to incorporate the entire nine-spirit continent into the Taoist field of the beginningless. His consideration stemmed from seeing the future, where the Chenkuan Church would face calamity, causing chaos within the sect and significant casualties among the continent's beings. This was caused by internal strife, and Guan still would not interfere, perfectly aligned with his wish for Chenkuan Church to stand independently. He had sheltered the Chenkuan Church for so long, and continuing to protect it would violate his principles, as relying on the Taoist field of the beginningless to become the world ruler would be against his creed. The Chenkuan Church could be the world's premier sect but could not solely rely on the Taoist field of the beginningless. The world's leading sect must not only be strong but also command public respect. An hour later, Guan leisurely returned to his courtyard. As he passed the artifact refining cauldron, Shen Zhen suddenly asked, "Can you discern Yang Jian's current immortal position now?" Since Yang Jian ascended to immortality, she had been curious about this and asked many times. Without stopping his steps, Guan replied, "Still can't, but you'll know when he returns." He had to go back inside to read. Recently, Shangguan Xian'er had another magnificent work, and he needed to appreciate it carefully. Shen Zhen pursed her lips, secretly resolving not to let Shangguan Xian'er surpass her. She too should start writing again. As the sun set and the moon rose, a night passed. The next morning, Guan walked out of the house, holding a book in his hand, with a smile on his face. "Where are you going again?" Shen Zhen asked curiously. Guan glanced at her and said, "Going to Chenkuan's sect." "I'll go too." Shen Zhen immediately stood up, guessing what Guan was about to do and wanting to join in on the excitement. Guan did not refuse her, and headed straight to the courtyard gate. Just as he reached the gate, an Xian appeared out of nowhere, frowned and said, "Master, I received news that Yuan Luo has turned into a demon. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 706. Inheritance of Heaven and Earth. Yuan Luo, once the top genius of the Chenkuan sect, is now a free immortal, famous throughout the world. His descent into a demon is a great blow to the Chenkuan sect, which prides itself on being an orthodox Taoist sect. An Xian received the news that Yuan Luo, during his training outside, encountered many sections. For some reason, he suddenly turned into a demon, slaughtering tens of thousands of cultivators, including hundreds of fellow disciples. The news spread back to the Chenkuan sect, and they couldn't contain it. Other sects are also using this incident to damage the reputation of the Chenkuan sect. An Xian felt that this was an unprecedented crisis for the Chenkuan sect, and if not handled properly, it could affect its future development. Let nature take its course. This calamity can just test the resolve of the Chenkuan sect, Guan replied casually. Yuan Luo hadn't truly become a demon. He merely acted out in a fit of rage. In fact, he had always had a streak of fierceness since childhood, and the higher-ups of the Chenkuan sect were aware of it. As the reincarnation of Chaos Grudge Luo, Yuan Luo's power would grow with his resentment and anger. During his conflicts with the Dao court, he became increasingly aware of this and began consciously allowing himself to enter extreme emotions. Currently, Yuan Luo isn't powerful enough, at least not capable of endangering the world. The Chaos Grudge Luo is sealed, so he can only borrow a little power. In fact, aside from Yuan Luo, there are other hidden dangers within the Chenkuan sect. The rules of the righteous Tao sometimes incite hatred and can become tools for those with intentions. Upon hearing Gu An's words, an Xian realized something. She stepped aside to make way for Gu, and watching the departing backs of Gu An and Shenzhen, an Xian sighed slightly. She understood that her master had grown tired of caring for the Chenkuan sect. Although she got along well with the Chenkuan sect, she wouldn't go against or doubt her master's decision. An Xian stopped thinking about it and turned to leave. Recently, she had been immersed in the reflections of reincarnation, gaining deeper insights into the primordial Tao Emperor. She increasingly felt that the primordial Tao Emperor was unfathomable, and it was a path with limitless potential. She was resolute in her determination to become a primordial Tao Emperor. The disciples of Wuxia all walk the path of the primordial Tao Emperor, and she aims to become the first primordial Tao Emperor within the beginningless, aside from Guen. The sun was bright, and amidst the surrounding mountains, Xiao Lan in a white dress walked on the stone path beside a stream, curiously admiring the scenery along the way. Senior Sister Xiao Lan. A voice came from the side, and a young man in blue descended from the sky, landing beside her with a smile on his face. The blue-clothed man's figure was tall, with an elegant demeanor, and his smile felt as gentle as a spring breeze. Xiao Lan nodded towards him and asked, "Junior brother Cheng, you're here too?" "Master said that the Ting Master wanted to see me, so I came. I didn't expect I wasn't the only one. As it seems, there might be other disciples as well." Junior brother Cheng smiled. Xiao Lan couldn't help but become interested. It seemed the Ting Master had something major to arrange. The two continued forward, chatting along the way. On their journey, they encountered other disciples, heightening their curiosity about the purpose of this trip. Upon arriving at a courtyard, they saw a dozen or so disciples waiting there, and Xiao Lan also spotted Zhao Rushan. Even he's here, it must be something significant. Xiao Lan thought silently. Zhao Rushan now wielded immense power, second only to Ting Master Yuan Songzi within the Dao court. Everyone regarded Zhao Rushan as the next Ting Master. Not only Xiao Lan, but the other disciples were also surprised to see Zhao Rushan. Zhao Rushan sat beside Yuan Songzi in a black robe, exuding a domineering aura. His gaze was penetrating, and except for a few, most didn't dare meet his eyes. Yuan Songzi looked at the group and said with a smile, "Everyone who's supposed to be here is here. I have something to announce today." The disciples stood in a line, not daring to sit like Zhao Rushan. Xiao Lan wasn't necessarily afraid, but she didn't want to be too close to Yuan Songzi or Zhao Rushan. She spent years in seclusion, avoiding the factional struggles within the court as much as possible. Although Yuan Songzi had taken her to the path of the Great Tao, her master wasn't in the same faction as Zhao Rushan. "Ting Master, what has happened? Could it be that the 100 sects in the human world are planning to besiege us?" Junior brother Cheng couldn't help but ask first. His words made the other disciples tense up. Over the years, there have been more sects causing trouble for the Tao court. Various kinds of conflicts have been reported internally. The Tao court flaunts itself as the righteous Tao and the world ruler, but their handling of certain matters has left the disciples dismayed. Everyone could feel the pressure from other sects and perceive the Tao court's growing weakness. Normally, they are dissatisfied with the upper echelons, but when it comes to going to war with 100 sects, they feel apprehensive. Today's situation is unlike the past. The Tao court indeed lacks the power to suppress the entire human world. That's not it, but the situation you foresee will happen sooner or later. Yuan Songzi smiled softly. His words made the disciples' faces change dramatically, but seeing his smile, they felt he wasn't worried. Perhaps the Ting Master already had a plan. Thinking this way, the disciples felt at ease. "You all are the brightest disciples of the Tao court, and your reputation is extremely high. I plan to let you inherit the various legacies of the Tao court. Once the Tao court is dissolved in the future, you can establish your own sections. Are you confident?" When Yuan Songzi said this, his smile didn't fade, as if he was discussing something trivial. Upon hearing this, the courtyard burst into an uproar. The disciples were all shocked and began to object. "Ting Master, what do you mean? Why dissolve the Tao court? We are not afraid to fight, even if it means a life-and-death struggle with the 100 sects. We are not afraid. That's right, with all the storms we've seen since the Tao Court's establishment, what's there to fear? Exactly, Tingmaster. Why don't we just start a war with the 100 sects and catch them off guard? While the disciples were passionately excited, Xiaolan kept silent, her eyes fixed on Yuan Songzi. She didn't think Yuan Songzi was a coward. Back when the undefeated Emperor clan wanted to kill them, Yuan Songzi showed no fear and was at the forefront. The combined 100 sects of the human world are no match for the undefeated Emperor clan. Yuan Songzi raised his hand, signaling everyone to calm down. The group could only suppress their emotions. The Tao Court has presided over the world for 1,000,000 years. It has been long enough. In fact, you might not know that the Tao Court itself wasn't founded by me alone. It was formed by the unification of the greatest sects from the great heaven and earth before the world's reformation, and I merely facilitated it. After the Tao Court dissolves, you will establish your sects, creating a new order for the era. This itself is a form of legacy. Yuan Songzi spoke seriously, paused and continued. Of course, the Tao Court will not easily be dissolved. At the very least, it should make other sects realize how precious this throne is and serve as a warning for future generations, thus better benefiting all living beings under heaven. CTH Novelfire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 707. Vast Law Great Light God Honor. Inside the grotto heaven, Guan and Xiaolan sat on the mountain cliff, chatting while enjoying the scenery. The Ting Master's vision is indeed grand, having already thought of dissolving the Tao Court, but surely the other higher-ups will not agree. Xiaolan spoke of Yuan Songzi's decision, her face full of sentiment. She did not feel regret about the dissolution of the Tao Court. She thought Yuan Songzi had made a good point, as the troubles of the Tao Court could no longer be resolved by just 1 or 2 wars. Xiaolan looked at Guan, curiously asking, Brother Gu, with your cultivation level seeing this world, who do you think will be the sect to unify the realm next? Guan shook the wine gourd, smiling. How could I know? Even if I did, that would be a heavenly secret. Xiaolan pouted. Through these years, the two often sparred, and no matter how strong she became, she was never a match for Guan. She always felt Guan was stronger than Yuan Songzi. Guan's existence made her find the disputes between major sects quite laughable. The truly great powers were hidden in the human world, watching the tides rise and fall. If someone like Guan were willing to take action, they would surely be able to overturn the world structure. Thinking of this, Xiaolan looked at Guan with eyes full of admiration. Guan was not interested in Yuan Songzi's decision, for it had appeared in his vision long ago. He could even foresee the situation in the human world after the Tao Court dissolved. Have you gained any deeper insights into the primordial Tao Emperor recently? Guan changed the subject and asked. An Xian was already very close to the primordial Tao Emperor. She would become the first primordial Tao Emperor beyond the path of the Great Tao, and once successful, the primordial crystal would disperse to the 3,000 great worlds, entering a new stage of the primordial Emperor road. Xiaolan's aptitude was not bad, and combined with the accumulation of the innate reincarnation skill, she had high comprehension of the path of reincarnation. Xiaolan nodded and said, Yes, but it feels like I still need to continue projecting to reach the primordial Tao Emperor. Recalling the reincarnation projection, she felt astonished. The cultivation method of the primordial Tao Emperor was indeed too profound. Even though she had not personally experienced reincarnation, she had memories of reincarnation, and those memories were not false. She was now very curious about how strong the real primordial Tao Emperor was. She believed Guan was the primordial Tao Emperor. After all, he was the one who led her on this path, though she still couldn't figure out how strong Guan was, as the gap between their strengths was too vast. She began to discuss her cultivation dilemmas with Guan Gu and accompanied her for 3 days before leaving. After leaving the Tao Court, he first went around collecting medicinal herbs. After Profound Mystery left, the mountain god temple was considered abandoned, and Guan had already moved those herbs to the Taoist field of the beginningless. To commemorate this place, he left a legacy in the mountain god temple. After picking mature medicinal herbs outside the dojo, Guan returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless, leisurely walking towards the peak where he resided. Everything was moving in a positive direction, and next, He looked forward to his own progress. When he achieved a lifespan of 100 million years, he would go to break through. CTH novel, F. Iyer. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. What realm would be above Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal? He could first invest some of his lifespan to probe the name of a higher realm, but he did not do so, knowing that names meant nothing and preferred to keep its mystery, which made him more expectant. The sun set in the west, casting a long shadow of Gu-en. On a grand and magnificent hall, Long Mie, also known as the Celestial Destruction Divine Dragon, walked forward with powerful strides, wearing golden armor, valiant in appearance, as if dragon shadows circled around him. This hall was vast, with immortal mist covering the floor, and huge stone pillars stood upright, each coiled with different flood dragons, all living creatures, some asleep, some watching the celestial destruction god. He advanced all the way to the white jade stairs, which had 100 steps, towering 100 zhang high, and at the top sat a giant azure lotus seat, upon which sat a giant immortal. This giant immortal, though sitting, exceeded 1,000 zhang in height, wearing a large dark robe, with white hair but an exceptionally youthful face, ruddy complexion, and a jade hairpin inserted above, with a tail end ablaze. This immortal was a supreme immortal of the celestial court, titled Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord. Celestial Destruction God greets the Divine Lord. The Celestial Destruction God bowed and raised hands in a salute, his tone respectful. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord opened his eyes, and the entire hall grew even brighter. He looked down at the Celestial Destruction God and slowly spoke. Your past, this Lord already knows. You have rendered significant contributions to the Celestial Court. This Lord will assist you in advancing to Star Monarch. Before that, you will cultivate in this Lord's dojo and strive to achieve Taiching Golden Immortal as soon as possible. Thank you, Divine Lord, replied the Celestial Destruction God, his tone not too surprised nor overly excited. Profound mystery. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord spoke, and as the words fell, a figure appeared out of thin air in the hall, less than 100 zhang away from the Celestial Destruction God. The Celestial Destruction God glanced over, his eyes squinting. He could feel the celestial Dao destiny of the other, whose immortal position tier was higher than his, but the other's cultivation level was only at the profound Yuan-free immortal realm. Could such a cultivation level achieve Star Monarch? The Celestial Destruction God did not underestimate the other. He knew that such achievements couldn't be through connections, and the other might have ascended through a superior path to immortality. The one who appeared was indeed Li Xuanmiao, who had passed the trial of the Celestial Dao Immortal Stone. Li Xuanmiao wore a gold-threaded white robe and a peacock silver crown, with a transcendent bearing, like an immortal from a painting. He was not as dominant as the Celestial Destruction God, but his own immortal god qualities were outstanding. Li Xuanmiao saluted Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord, saying, Master. He is this Lord's new disciple, coming from a great world within dust, passing the test of the Celestial Dao Immortal Stone, and being awarded by Tsongtian, ranking among the Star Monarchs. His cultivation is too low. Before the realm improves, this Lord will not let him take any immortal positions. Celestial Destruction God, henceforth you are responsible for guiding him. This will be your first task from this Lord. If you wish to descend to the lower realm, you may do so yourself, but each time you may not exceed 100 immortal years. Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord's voice echoed. Upon hearing this, the Celestial Destruction God immediately accepted the order, without refusal or further questions. Shortly after, Guangfa Taiguang Divine Lord closed his eyes. Li Xuanmiao raised his hand towards the Celestial Destruction God, signaling to leave the hall together. The Celestial Destruction God nodded, and the two turned and left together. After walking out of the Golden Hall, they arrived on a cloud, looking out to where numerous palaces emitted 10,000 rays of golden light, and a giant rainbow hung in the sky. Master has already informed me of your arrival and asked me to prepare a dojo for you in advance. Come with me, Li Xuanmiao said, looking at the Celestial Destruction God. Since ascending, he had met many immortal gods, and he had already accepted the disparity in status among immortal gods. As a Star Monarch, he could direct celestial gods, and even though the Celestial Destruction God's cultivation was higher than his, he need not be polite, nor did he need to bow. Thanks, Star Monarch. The Celestial Destruction God cupped his fist, showing no displeasure on his face. Li Xuanmiao began leading the way, and as he walked, he turned to ask, Celestial Destruction God, I heard you destroy worlds. Could you tell me about the duties of celestial gods? Being new here, I want to gain more understanding of the celestial court. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 708. Below the realm. Facing Li Xuanmiao's inquiry, the celestial destruction god did not refuse and began to narrate about the celestial gods. Although celestial gods hold the lowest tiers of the celestial court's immortal positions, there are tens of thousands of types. The most numerous are the celestial gods guarding the worlds, including the 3,000 great worlds and many cosmic planes. Where there is guardianship, there is destruction. The celestial destruction god belongs to the destruction faction, wielding the power of punishment. Above celestial gods are the star monarchs, and above them are the main deity and the immortal monarch. The pinnacle of the celestial destruction god's faction is the god of destruction, a main deity position. After joining under the command of the majestic gods venerable Guangfa Tai Guang, the celestial destruction god essentially left the god of destruction's faction, embarking on another path. Li Xuanmiao had long known that the majestic god's venerable Guangfa Tai Guang was extraordinary, but he didn't expect him to hold such a high position. According to the celestial destruction god, 90% of celestial gods will never face the supreme immortal in their lifetime. The celestial destruction god was also filled with curiosity about Li Xuanmiao and, after introducing his understanding of the celestial court's immortal positions, he inquired about Li Xuanmiao's ascension experience. Li Xuanmiao had a favorable impression of him and did not hide anything. Hearing that Li Xuanmiao passed the test of the celestial Dao immortal stone in the Zizai immortal realm, the celestial destruction god was quite impressed. With this person's talent, he might very well achieve the rank of supreme immortal in the future. The two chatted more and more enjoyably, and their relationship was drawing closer. Conflicts between the 100 sects of the human world and the Dao court increased, and each of the 100 great sects was a regional overlord. They joined forces to oppress the Dao court, causing its prestige in the eyes of the world to diminish, leading even weaker sects to show disrespect towards the Dao court. Eventually, an unprecedented war broke out in the human world. In just 10 years, the 100 sects of the human world launched an attack on the Dao court, and in the subsequent years, more sects continued to join. The Dao court, like an ancient towering tree, was on the verge of collapse, and everyone wanted a piece of its flesh. The Qiankuan sect also got involved. In the end, they forgave Yuan Luo, merely imprisoning him for 10,000 years, before they too threw themselves into the war against the Dao court. The enmity between the Qiankuan sect and the Dao court was deep, mainly sparked by Yuan Luo and Zhao Rushan. The two sides had been in constant friction, accumulating hatred over hundreds of thousands of years, waiting to explode. The Dao court, after all, was a colossal entity that dominated the heavens and the earth for millions of years. Its depths were unimaginable to the world, and even when facing attacks from all over the world, they could still exhibit resilience. Search *The Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 100,000 years later. The war in the human world still had not ended, and constantly new outstanding talents emerged between heaven and earth, having to venture to the ancient battlefields to prove themselves. Within the Taoist field of the beginningless, Guan was lecturing disciples, including even the third-generation disciples. In recent years, 3 new members were added: Mo Xuandi, the second disciple of Jiang Shishou, Li Qing, disciple of Emperor Tianhong, and Chang Jie, disciple of Tian Bai. Among these 3, only one came from the Qiankuan sect. The other 2 were common people from the 9-spirit continent. Guan was sharing his insights on the primordial Dao Emperor, and even the third-generation disciples could listen and benefit greatly. He intended to make the beginningless a formidable force on the primordial Emperor road. The primordial Dao Emperor would surely surpass the Taoist Emperor one day. By then, many sects would join, but no one would think of the connection between the primordial Dao Emperor and the beginningless. After finishing his lecture, Guan invited the disciples to ask questions one by one, and the most active ones were the third-generation disciples, eagerly seeking knowledge. This time, Guan was very patient with them. Although he usually was not interested in his disciples, when it came to cultivation, he was fair. He carefully answered every question from each disciple and provided a suitable path for their cultivation. Ancestor, the primordial Dao Emperor seeks insight from nature. not the path of killing enemies. What is your view of this calamity in the human world? Emo Shuandi suddenly asked, his gaze fixed on Guen. He appeared to be in his early 20s, with skin not very fair, and his brows were marked with bitterness due to years of frowning. He came from the Chenkuan sect, with parents who died in the war against the Dao court, harboring a long-held seed of revenge. Upon hearing his question, Jiang Shi sighed but did not stop him, hoping Guen could enlighten Emo Shuandi. Guen looked at Emo Shuandi and said, since ancient times, there have been natural and man-made disasters, each with its own cause and effect. While I do not like conflict, I do not abhor it either. Everything you see is a result of the Tao rules. The calamity in the human world stems from ambition, and more beings are swept along by the flow against their will. I know you seek revenge, but perhaps before you succeed, your enemies might just die in war, like your parents. You may harbor hatred, but you should consider who to hate and what to do after. These are the things you need to ponder. Emo Shuandi hesitated to speak. Guen continued, the primordial Tao Emperor will project through the reincarnation of all heavens. When everyone reaches that stage, they will undergo the pain you are experiencing. Once you reach that point, you may return to me to ask about revenge. To not enter the free immortal realm, one can't leave the 9-spirit continent. This was a rule set by Guen for his third-generation disciples, and no one could bypass it. Every disciple was informed of this before entering Beginningless, but at that time, they were all immersed in the vastness of the realm and had not realized how lengthy the years would be to reach the Zizai immortal realm. Upon hearing this, Emo Shuandi immediately thanked Guen. He held hatred in his heart, but it was not directed at any individual. He loathed the world's conflict, believing that following Guen in cultivation would lead him to the answers he sought. Ancestor, it's my turn. If the primordial Tao Emperor projects through the heavens, can I inject my consciousness, for example, to spread my writings? Shangguan Sienna raised her hand to ask. After asking, she looked at Guen with anticipation. The other disciples didn't give it much thought. They knew Shangguan Sienna loved writing, but were unaware of how broad her range was. With an unchanged expression, Guen replied, that's a good idea. If you can achieve it, you might pave a path of your own. To inject your consciousness, you need to study the great Tao of cause and effect, soul, and reincarnation comprehensively. Just comprehending one great Tao won't suffice. Time continued to pass. Only until the next morning did the question and answer session conclude. Guen stood up, ready to go for a walk. Boom! A tremendous explosion erupted in the distance, causing the ground to tremble. The disciples discussing their insights from the lecture all stood up and turned to look in the direction of the sound. Guen paid no attention and left alone. The third-generation disciples gathered around their respective mentors to ask where the commotion came from. The war is about to reach the 9-spirit continent. An Xian gazed towards the horizon, murmuring. These words changed the complexions of the third-generation disciples. Was the Chenkuan sect going to be attacked? After leaving the courtyard, Guen arrived in front of the world gate in just one step. The celestial spirit god was already waiting there. Upon seeing Guen appear, he immediately stood up and saluted. Guen sat down beside him and asked, after going to the heavenly court realm, what have you discovered? The celestial gods were not qualified to set foot on the heavenly ascension stairs, but below the celestial court, there was a plain. It served as a transit point for the lower realm of the immortal gods, where many immortals would exchange information or conduct transactions. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 709. The celestial spirit god began to tell Guen the information he had gathered in the lower realm. He hadn't found any news about Yang Jian, but he had discovered information about the struggle for the Son of Heaven. It is said that a Son of Heaven is recruiting immortal gods, seemingly searching for something in the 3,000 great worlds. I heard that 2 Sons of Heaven are preparing to engage in a game in the Great Thousand World. This matter has already been permitted by the Venerable. If it is true, it will be an unprecedented disaster for the 3,000 great worlds. When immortal gods fight in the Great Thousand World, they will inevitably bring about destruction. However, Songtian can repair the Great Thousand World. But even so, 90% of the cultivators will perish. At this point, the The celestial spirit god looked at Guan, furrowing his brows. Guan asked, "Why?" "Because the immortal gods will recruit cultivators to fight for them. The struggle for the Son of Heaven is merely a matter of pride. No matter who wins or loses. Even if the celestial court discovers it, the punishment will be insignificant. But the immortal gods under the Son of Heaven will recruit cultivators to do their bidding. Cultivators recklessly involving themselves in the struggles of the celestial court will incur Kangxin's punishment." The celestial spirit god sighed, and Guan also remained silent. This matter is indeed unsolvable. Even if they inform the cultivation forces of the 3,000 great worlds about this point, cultivators will still fight for the hope of ascending to immortality. The path of cultivation is inherently about competing with others and contending with heaven and earth. Although Guan cannot yet see such a future, through the words of the celestial spirit god, he can already foresee how dark those years will be. How long do you estimate it will be before the struggle for the Son of Heaven sweeps across the 3,000 great worlds? Guan asked. The celestial spirit god replied, "In the celestial court, there's the immortal years concept. One day in heaven is a year in the human world. According to the time in the human world, it could be as fast as 10 million years, or as slow as several hundred million years. Such is the difference between immortals and mortals. To the immortal gods, 10 million years pass quickly, but for the human world, 10 million years are enough to change the course of history. Fortunately, for Guan, time isn't that rapid either. 10 million years are enough for his power to soar. Of course, even if this catastrophe were to erupt now, he wouldn't be afraid. He exists at the perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm level. Even in the celestial court, if he's not the strongest, he wouldn't be an easy target either." What about the two sons of heaven's strength? Will they personally take part? Guan asked. That's not something I could investigate, but they will certainly take action. Such struggles have occurred many times before. To become the celestial emperor, besides being powerful, one must also rely on the strength they control. Therefore, they will first act as the players. If they are on the brink of losing it all, they will undoubtedly step in personally. The celestial court is the same. The celestial emperor is supreme, often in seclusion or asleep in reincarnation. But if the celestial court encounters a catastrophic calamity, the celestial emperor will certainly act, capable of turning the tide. The celestial spirit god showed a look of longing and then recounted some legends about the celestial emperor. In the celestial court, even if the celestial emperor hasn't appeared, his legends are enough to make all immortal gods trust in his abilities. The celestial court has controlled the heavens for countless years, and the reason they have their current status is that they've suppressed wave after wave of opponents and rebels. Even when the chaos evil demons launched a massive invasion, they couldn't shake the celestial court's celestial Tao destiny. The legends told by the celestial spirit god were exaggerated, almost praising the celestial emperor to be omnipotent, as if without the celestial court, the celestial emperor would still be the most powerful being, capable of suppressing all beings. Guan thought these legends weren't false. He compared the disparity in strength between the celestial court and the 3,000 great worlds, and even without counting the celestial emperor, the celestial court was terrifyingly powerful. With so many immortal gods, there are always those with ambition. For the celestial emperor to permanently occupy that seat, his power must be overwhelmingly superior. After discussing the celestial emperor, the celestial spirit god asked, "Master, how do you view the celestial spirit great world? Do you let it be, or find a way to help them avoid this catastrophe? As long as they don't support the immortal gods, even if affected, they can be resurrected by Tsongtian after death. If we do nothing, once the news spreads, they will surely choose to assist a son of heaven." Sir the novel, F. IR. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Between the two sons of heaven vying for power, there will be one winner. But even following the winner, besides a few can ascending to immortality, others will face Kangxin's punishment. Even as a son of heaven, they don't have the authority to distribute a large number of celestial Tao immortal positions. Guan replied, "If I can protect the entire world, I won't refuse. I just won't join the internal conflict. You and I have lived in this great world for many years, not without grace, but also with fate. Find a way to help them avoid it, but don't expose our existence." This matter doesn't need him to act personally. The celestial spirit god now serves him and naturally has to work on it. Of course, Guan wouldn't treat him unfairly. After finishing the official matters, Guan began to expound the Tao for the celestial spirit god. Even after becoming a celestial god, cultivation is necessary. But the higher one ascends, the more challenging it becomes. Guan used his achievement in Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal to guide the celestial spirit god, which was a great opportunity for the celestial spirit god. The celestial spirit god had never stepped into the celestial court, and he naturally couldn't access teachings from supreme immortals or the celestial Tao Venerable. Every time Guan expounded the Tao, the celestial spirit god listened intently. Serving Guan wasn't just to protect himself and his son Tianhao. He also wanted to improve. No matter how strong his talent, the endpoint could only be a star monarch, but now the situation was different. The celestial spirit god's ambition was also growing, and he was consciously paving the way for Guan and Wuxia. Above the sea of clouds, a beam of blue light swept across. On closer inspection, it was a blue round fan, and on the fan stood a dozen figures, led by the Eternal Life Venerable who had previously visited the celestial spirit great world. Yang Jian, clad in silver armor, stood among the crowd, his gaze continually scanning the surroundings, admiring all the scenery along the way. In the distance, the sea of clouds surged, transforming into various shapes that were magnificently breathtaking. Occasionally, true dragons and phoenixes leapt out from the sea of clouds, raising clouds and mist. Brother Yang, you are fortunate. Upon your first arrival, you can accompany the master to the Tao lecture. That white-haired ancestor is a celestial Tao Venerable, staying outside the celestial court most of the year, seldom returning. She's also among the few willing to expound the Tao. A gray-robed Taoist looked at Yang Jian and said with a gentle smile. All those around were immortal gods, with the lowest immortal position being a star monarch. There were even main deities and immortal monarchs present. Each of them possessed an imposing aura and unfathomable presence. Yang Jian couldn't help but curiously ask, Celestial Tao Venerable? Is someone bearing the title of Venerable the highest in the celestial court's immortal position? The gray-robed Taoist smiled. Naturally. Even among celestial Tao Venerables, there are degrees of superiority. When we encounter them, we must salute and dare not offend in our hearts, or the heavenly Tao will punish us. When you meet her, you will never forget it. Being able to behold a celestial Tao Venerable is a great blessing in itself. Songtian will greatly increase our celestial Tao destiny, saving us years of arduous cultivation. Moreover, the Tao teachings of a celestial Tao Venerable are beyond your imagination, certain to yield abundant gains for you. These words made Yang Jian even more expectant of the upcoming Tao lecture. He also felt more grateful to Guan Master. I am about to face a celestial Tao Venerable and listen to her teachings. If you knew, would you be pleased for me? Yang Jian felt a bit regretful because he felt he was attending in place of his master. Such a grand opportunity should have belonged to his master. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 7:10 Great Tao Reincarnation. True Self Return. Guan did not know that Yang Jian was thinking about him. He continued to live his leisurely life, and besides regularly harvesting mature medicinal herbs, he began to travel the human world. In this turbulent era, more features of the human world emerged. Observing and experiencing them helped him in his enlightenment. He always felt that understanding the Great Tao didn't necessarily require walking the path of the Great Tao, as the Tao is omnipresent, and from the microscopic, one can observe the vast. As warfare engulfed the entire realm, living souls perished daily, the Tao court was besieged, and the attacking sects were numerous, making it easy to control the world's narrative. When the war reached a stalemate, the image of the Tao court in people's hearts began to overturn. Later, the Tao court was portrayed as the most evil force in the human world, the root of all calamities. The mortal spirit knew nothing of the golden ages from tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago. They only knew that various sects currently attacked the Tao court, and with the addition of those rumors, they loathed the Tao court deeply. Another 220,000 years passed since the celestial spirit god informed Guan about the struggle for the Son of Heaven. The Tao court finally came to its day of dissolution. Legend has it that the defense lines of the Tao court were breached in various directions. To safeguard the lives of the Tao court's disciples, the Ting Master announced its dissolution, and the once dominant entity fragmented, plunging the world into a kind of frantic chaos. The foundations of the Tao court were too deep, and the disciples fled the court by faction, leading to a lot of infighting during this process, while cultivators from other sects, hearing the news, madly rushed into the Tao court to seize opportunities. Dark clouds rolled, smoke filled the air, and Guan and Xiaolan stood on a cliff, watching a great city in the distant mountains engulfed in flames, with countless cultivators flying in and out, and battles even occurring in the distance. The glow of the flames shone on Xiaolan's face, her expression very calm, her long purple dress fluttering in the wind, untainted by dust. Guan turned his head to look at her and asked, "Any regrets?" The great city ahead was one of the Tao court cities, once a prosperous hub for immortal cultivation trade, renowned throughout half the world, and now reduced to such a state, sigh-inducing indeed. Although Xiaolan did not intend to perish alongside the Tao court, having stayed there for 1,000,000 years, she did have feelings for it. The Ting Master is still alive, just gone to outer heaven, the legacy is still there, passed on to the disciples, and now it's only the name of the Tao court that is gone. What's there to regret? Xiaolan said calmly, gazing into the distance. If Guan couldn't hear her inner thoughts, he might truly believe she didn't care. However, with the Tao court about to become a thing of the past, the living must look forward. Brother Gu, for the first time, I feel the fierce current of the human world's greater situation. Even the strong Ting Master and the Tao court couldn't withstand the overwhelming will of the masses. The so-called Taoist lineage, what is its true meaning of existence? Xiaolan asked softly, her eyes subtle. Over the years, she felt the pressure on the Tao court, with endless enemies coming from all directions, everything in heaven and earth condemning the Tao court, and even many disciples within the Tao court reflecting on what went wrong with it. However, the fact is, the 100 sects of the human world wanted to overturn the Tao court, and the Tao court lacked absolute strength to suppress them. If it were only a matter of strength, it would be fine, but the fall of the Tao court was so disgraced, collapsing in an evil guise. Years later, would the world think of the Tao court as the demon sect? A Taoist lineage originally serves the purpose of spreading the Tao, imparting knowledge, mutually discussing the Tao, and jointly promoting the exploration of the great Tao. What you worry about may not happen. Although the Tao court's current reputation is poor, over the long years, it has helped many living beings, and those deeds will be remembered by those with heartfelt appreciation and eventually etched into history. Guan replied, stating facts. Not to mention those beings who are grateful or aspiring towards the Tao court, the 100 sects of the human world will eventually follow in the Tao court's footsteps, and then, later generations wishing to topple them will naturally rehabilitate the Tao court to slander them. Right and wrong, black and white will be judged by future generations, and indeed these distinctions will disappear over time. In this era, looking back, how many people remember the Holy Court and Immortal Dynasty? In the red dust of the Great Tao, nothing truly matters. So-called history is just a possession of the human world. Discussing history in the face of the Great Tao seems somewhat ridiculous. Guan finally understood why those great power cultivators viewed the masses with indifference. Living long enough, one realizes that all things seem to go through a kind of reincarnation, where good and bad will both turn to dust, and what can be done eventually becomes futile. Of course, Guan merely lamented slightly. He always felt he was human, not immortal, and the most important thing for people is emotion. He wouldn't deliberately erase his feelings. Whatever he cherishes, he will protect, seeking only peace of mind. Xiaolan was also contemplating Guan's words, but recalling all sorts of past events made her feel like she had experienced a vast and illusory dream. When she glanced at Guan beside her, she felt a sense of solidity. The road they traveled was not a dream. What are your plans for the future? Will you cultivate in my dojo? Guan looked at Xiaolan and asked. The dissolution of the Tao court did have an impact on Xiaolan, and over the years, past memories had continuously flashed in her mind. The former Yilan was about to return. Xiaolan was lively and innocent, while Yilan was more rational and had her own ambitions. Forget about it. I want to return to the Xiao family to protect them. In the future, I will visit you at the 9-spirit continent, and you can always come to find me. I should grow up and cannot always cling to you. Xiaolan looked at Guan and said seriously. Guan smiled, looking at her expression, knowing that his junior sister was indeed about to return. As for his junior sister, he wouldn't treat her like the other disciples who went out. He would proactively visit her. Then let's go. I'll accompany you to the Xiao family. After all, I have some ties with the Xiao family. Guan laughed and then raised his right hand. Xiaolan smiled, took his hand, and they disappeared from where they stood. Search * the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. A few days later, Guan returned alone to Within the Beginningless. Today, Within the Beginningless was somewhat lively because LV Xian had returned. The disciples gathered in Guan's courtyard to listen to LV Xian recount his experiences and the state of the world. The third-generation disciples had never seen LV Xian and were full of curiosity about this senior from the sect. After learning that Within the Beginningless had a third generation of disciples, LV Xian no longer acted frivolously, instead putting on a grandmaster demeanor. Junior Master LV, in your view, which sect will be the next world ruler? And Zin's second disciple, Zhang Lan, asked curiously. The other disciples also stared intently at LV Xian. LV Xian, being out for years, would surely discern the trend. LV Xian pondered, just about to answer, when he suddenly saw Guan's figure at the courtyard entrance. His eyes lit up, and he immediately dashed over to Guan, bowing in salute. Master, I have important matters to tell you. Can we speak privately? LV Xian said excitedly. In front of Guan, he didn't bother to pretend. Upon hearing this, Guan nodded slightly, then walked towards his pavilion, and the other disciples all stood up, bending in salute towards him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 711. The final trial. Inside the room, Guan sat by the table, pouring tea for himself. LV Xian closed the door, then came before him, mysteriously taking out a long box and placing it on the table. This scene reminded Guan of the time LV Xian handed him the celestial Tao immortal stone, making him feel both amused and helpless. Before LV Xian arrived, Guan already knew what this guy was going to present, but he still chose to ask LV Xian, "What is this?" In response to Guan's inquiry, LV Xian chuckled, "Another immortal god's opportunity." In beginning to suspect him, an immortal god descended to the mortal world. Inside is a piece of divine wood, containing a chance to ascend to immortality. It's said that there's a supreme immortal god traveling through the Tao universe, seemingly searching for something. If you can assist him, you may gain immortal fate. Guan nodded slightly but felt contemptuous in his heart. The Son of Heaven and his immortal gods, resorting to such petty tricks, creating mystique out of nonsense. Guan spoke, "Don't get involved in this causality." He recounted the competition between the Son of Heaven to LV Xian, who listened in astonishment. LV Xian had suspected whether it was a scheme or a trap, but didn't expect such a struggle hidden behind it. Would the Son of Heaven use all living beings as chess pieces in the competition between his children? Afterward, the heavenly Tao won't severely punish the Son of Heaven but will impose celestial punishment on those cultivators participating in the immortal god's conflicts? LV Xian felt both absurd and aggrieved. He had a certain admiration for immortal gods. To be precise, all cultivators aspire to ascend to immortality, and everyone has a vision of immortal gods in their hearts. LV Xian didn't believe immortal gods had necessary protection duties towards all living beings, but he felt immortal gods were exalted, distinct from mortals, and the struggle between immortal gods should be a confrontation between them. How could they toy with mortal spirits who are vastly weaker? Search * the Nafire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He suddenly understood why his master refused to ascend to immortality. Such immortal gods, such a celestial court, indeed seemed narrow-minded. Maybe in the future, another group of immortal gods will replace them. Master, then how should we handle this? LV Xian looked up at Guan and asked. Guan glanced at the long box on the table, which immediately caught fire. LV Xian opened his mouth but ultimately chose to remain silent. Even knowing the scheme behind this causality, he still harbored a slight delusion in his heart, thinking, what if he chose the right side and they kept their promise? Seeing the long box turn to ashes, he felt a sense of relief. Even he has such complex thoughts, let alone those cultivators with stronger ambitions. This item is truly dreadful. LV Xian could already envision the terrifying scenes of various heavens waging war for the sake of immortal gods, surely much more dreadful than the human world battles that lasted hundreds of thousands of years before. Guan looked at LV Xian and said, "Now that you're back, spend some more time cultivating in the dojo." Unlike Chen Chuan, you're not entangled by the sect. Faced with his instruction, LV Xian naturally dared not refuse and could only agree. Guan waved his hand, signaling LV Xian to withdraw. Once the door was closed, Guan brought up the attribute panel. Name, Guan. Lifespan, 1487, 902/99, 890, 816, 785, 408. Physique, primordial Tao creation body. Cultivation level, perfect Taoist Great Luo immortal realm, approaching 100 trillion year lifespan. By then, he would be able to break through. Thinking about reaching a higher realm soon, Guan couldn't help but feel excited. Even without an imminent strong enemy, he enjoyed the feeling of continuously growing stronger, especially when he could compare himself with others. Besides the next realm, he was curious about what features a 100 trillion year lifespan would unlock. Would there be another feature upgrade? The enhancements in life expectancy predictions suited his taste. Although occasional hints would disturb his mind, knowing how many potential foes there were, and who they were, brought him more anticipation. Since I have so much lifespan, should I use 10 million years for a lifespan reincarnation? Guan suddenly had a whim. Because of the long family causality, he dared not easily implement lifespan reincarnation, opting more to use lifespan projection now. Anyway, he had interfered with enough causality. Why trouble himself unnecessarily? Even aside from him, other great power cultivators also change the causality of others, heavens, and universe on their path to greater strength. The causality of the great Tao has never been fixed, constantly changing. True glimpse into the future isn't seeing one outcome, but seeing countless outcomes, choosing the most suitable one for oneself. With this thought, Guan immediately initiated the lifespan reincarnation. An overdue prompt appeared before his eyes, symbolizing the imminent start of lifespan reincarnation. Beneath the blue sky, endless mountains undulated like the spines of ancient dragon beasts, fierce and spiky. On a mid-mountainside, Zhang Buku and Su Yu sat cross-legged together, gazing at a landscape filled with the sitting figures of heavenly soldiers as far as the eye could see. Su Yu suddenly opened his eyes, looking up towards the celestial vault. Shortly after, Zhang Buku also opened his eyes. More and more heavenly soldiers opened their eyes, all gazes directed towards the celestial vault. In the vast expanse of blue sky appeared a crack, lightning woven through it, as if the celestial vault had been cleaved open, frightening and daunting. From within the crack stepped a figure, radiating golden light like a brilliant sun in the sky. It was the celestial calming god. Upon seeing the celestial calming god, all the heavenly soldiers stood up. After their previous defeat on the path of the great Tao, they had been cultivating in this realm, waiting for the celestial calming god to arrange a new trial. They were still a long way from ascending to immortality and becoming gods, far enough to make many feel like giving up, yet helplessly so. Next will be the final trial. Only 100,000 heavenly soldiers can emerge, and these top 100,000 will gain celestial Tao destiny. Once their cultivation level is sufficient, they can become gods like me. The voice of the celestial calming god resonated across the entire world, causing every heavenly soldier's breathing to quicken, Zhang Buku included. Yet Zhang Buku felt a bit regretful. He wanted more time to accumulate cultivation. Compared to other heavenly soldiers, he was too young, and facing the final trial now was quite a disadvantage for him. Though his cultivation level didn't hold an advantage, Zhang Buku still had some confidence. 100,000 spots, more than he had anticipated. Su Yu smirked, saying in a low voice, "Looks like some immortal gods need to use us, blessings or curses unknown." Zhang Buku didn't care after hearing this. Ever since following the celestial calming god, they had undertaken various missions, escaping death multiple times. Having come this far, he was determined to ascend to immortality. He would ascend not just for himself. He aimed to find his parents in reincarnation and visit Master Gu and Li Ya. In his view, Master Gu and Li Ya had long passed away. Over 1,000,000 years had passed, and the foundation of that realm was far from enough to allow the two to live till today, not to mention their talent wasn't extraordinary. Zhang Buku took a deep breath, fists clenched, with a fire of determination burning in his eyes. Su Yu glanced at him and couldn't help but shake his head. This guy was getting hyped again. Even after all these years together, Su Yu still couldn't understand why he got so easily excited. This final trial will begin in this realm. You need not kill each other but will decide victory through reincarnation. The top 100,000 heavenly soldiers who emerge from reincarnation will succeed, while the remainder will be lost in reincarnation forever, never to transcend. The voice of the celestial calming god sounded once more, dampening the fervor of the heavenly soldiers. Lost in reincarnation forever? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 712. In the Tai-Wei Great World. Zhu Shi, clad in white, stood on the clouds gazing down at the vast earth below. Behind her followed hundreds of people, all exuding extraordinary auras, similarly looking down at the earth, their faces filled with shock. Following their gaze, the endless land below was in complete disarray, with potholes everywhere, mountains flattened, and smoke pervading the heavens and earth, threatening to overturn the sea of clouds. At the edge of the land was a sea of fire, tens of thousands of feet high, seemingly about to devour the entire world, a truly majestic sight. Zhu Shi narrowed her eyes. In that terrifying sea of fire, she saw a figure that filled her eyes with fear. Who is that? How dare he attack the divine court's boundary mountain? How terrifying! Those divine court's great powers were annihilated instantly. He seems somewhat deranged. Could he be in demonic possession? Even if he's possessed, to have such terrifying power, his cultivation level must be extraordinarily high. It doesn't matter. As long as he's not coming for us, we shouldn't act rashly. The cultivators discussed among themselves. Although Zhu Shi didn't participate in their discussion, she was equally curious. Having stood in the Tai-Wei Great World for hundreds of thousands of years, it was the first time she had seen anyone so powerful and daring to take such action against the divine court. Her intuition told her that even more terrifying events were about to unfold, and the Tai-Wei Great World would face an unprecedented catastrophe. She hesitated, unsure whether she should flee the Tai-Wei Great World. The divine court had been colluding with the immortal gods, committing heinous acts. She always felt that the divine court's actions would eventually be exposed, leading to a transformation of the Tai-Wei Great World. She wanted to replace the divine court and establish a new holy court. After hundreds of thousands of years of effort, she finally built a force. To give it up so easily was an excruciating decision. Moreover, the figure in the sea of fire gave her an inexplicable sense of familiarity. At that moment, an immense oppressive force descended upon the entire world. Zhu Shi and the others looked up, only to see a mass of black energy diving from the horizon beyond the sea of clouds, unstoppable. This mass of black energy plunged into the endless sea of fire at an incredible speed. The sea of fire scattered, stirring up strong winds that ravaged the heavens and earth. Zhu Shi and the others immediately began cultivating energy to resist the scorching fire winds. Zhu Shi squinted, seeing the black energy disappear as it crashed into the sea of fire. She had seen this black energy before. It belonged to a great power of the divine court, whose cultivation reached the heavens and earth, once plunging her into despair. Fortunately, in that battle, the target was another person, and she was merely caught up in it, eventually narrowly escaping danger. Zhu Shi harbored an absurd suspicion in her heart. You? Who are you indeed? A terrified voice echoed, shocking the other cultivators around Zhu Shi. They recognized this voice as well. It belonged to Li Changfeng, a great cultivator of the divine court. Li Changfeng was a heaven-encompassing free immortal, a famous divine general of the divine court, known for slaughtering countless enemies and having a fearsome reputation. When they faced Li Changfeng, they could only look up in fear. They had never heard him speak in such a tone. Fear, despair. Did Li Changfeng get defeated just after descending? Hundreds of divine senses probed simultaneously, followed by gasps of shock. Retreat! Zhu Shi immediately ordered, turning around to leave first, with the others following closely. No one hesitated, all scared out of their wits. In the distance, the sea of fire dispersed, revealing a white-haired man with a bare upper body standing on an extensive charred plain. He held a purple-robed man's neck, lifting him high. This purple-robed man was Li Changfeng of the divine court, with disheveled hair and a face full of blood, his eyes filled with terror. One move. With just one move, the opponent shattered his Dao fruit, causing all his mana to dissipate. He had no strength to break free, only awaiting death. The unfathomable power of the opponent disturbed him, foreshadowing great trouble for the divine court. He had never encountered such an enemy, whose very presence filled him with unease. The white-haired man was tall and muscular, his upper bodice muscles well-defined, with flame-like blood marks on his fair skin and a handsome face, but with eerie pale pupils. Longevity fruit. Longevity fruit? The white-haired man asked coldly, his voice intermittent, seemingly incoherent. Li Changfeng gritted his teeth and said, I have never heard of the longevity fruit. If that is your only goal, I can have the divine court help you search for it. Crunch! Li Changfeng's neck was suddenly broken, his words cut short. His eyes widened, his divine soul unable to escape his body, and he turned to ash, scattering with the wind. The white-haired man turned around, flying in a certain direction. Saw the novel, F.I.R. at website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. On the other side, Zhu Shi and her group were still fleeing rapidly, sensing Li Changfeng's aura abruptly vanish, indicating his probable death. What kind of being could make a great power like Li Changfeng fall in such a short time? Zhu Shi was equally shocked, unable to forget the image of the white-haired man in her mind. Facing such a terrifying being, she couldn't think of anything else, her heart filled with dread. Bang! A thunderous roar suddenly erupted from behind, engulfing Zhu Shi and her group in dazzling light, followed by an unfathomable strong wind. At the same time, in the depths of the universe before the world gate, a celestial god opened his eyes, reflecting the scene of the Taiwei Great World within them. From the universe's perspective, the Taiwei Great World appeared as a glowing continent, surrounded by countless little worlds. At this moment, the glowing continent was trembling, with billowing black smoke emerging from a certain area. Where does this person come from? The celestial god muttered to himself, beginning to calculate with his fingers, his expression growing increasingly strange. War Spirit Holy Mansion. Tai Shangju. It's actually him? He's still alive? The celestial god furrowed his brows, then stood up, turning to walk into the world gate. A storm gusted from the depths of the universe, but the world gate remained unmoved, unaffected. The storm lasted for a long time, and when the turbulence subsided, the celestial god had not returned. On the other side of the universe, the strong light of the Taiwei Great World was gradually fading. The white-haired man suddenly appeared in the void, holding a person in his hand. Does the War Spirit Holy Mansion intend to oppose the Celestial Court? The person held by the white-haired man was an old Taoist with an immortal aura, none other than the immortal monarch Han Sha, hidden within the divine court. He could see the cause and effect of the white-haired man, linked to the War Spirit Holy Mansion, a powerful court outside the jurisdiction of the Celestial Court. The white-haired man, Tai Shangju, ignored him, grabbing his head and stepping into the void. A time-space rift appeared in front, into which he stepped, dragging the immortal monarch Han Sha with him, disappearing without a trace as the rift quickly closed, as if nothing had happened. But the celestial Tao immortal light of the Taiwei Great World was fading, indicating a titanic battle had just occurred. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 713. Tao Saint Heartswish. The waves incessantly washed up on the beach, crashing against the rocks, sending up sprays of water. In the distance, demon birds hovered over the sea, wary of approaching the shore. On the beach, Guan sat in meditation, his eyes closed, the whirlpool of spiritual energy around him slowly dissipating. The sky gradually turned yellow, dusk nearing. A meteor streaked across the sky, piercing the sea of clouds, aiming towards Guan. Just as the meteor was about to strike Guan, he suddenly raised his hand and caught the meteor in his grasp. He opened his right palm to reveal a white jade stone, the size of a pigeon egg, in his hand, refracting a crystalline light, exuding a mysterious beauty. Guan slowly opened his eyes, looking at the white jade stone in his hand with a complex expression. He had just received the inheritance memories of lifespan reincarnation, his mind awash with emotions and thoughts. He had experienced another life. This lifetime was far longer and grander than the previous ones combined. Perhaps it was related to Guan's current cultivation level, as this lifetime's cultivation far surpassed the former ones, even reaching the realm of Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. The endpoint of lifespan reincarnation varies with the state of one's cultivation beforehand. Even with unparalleled talent, one might still succumb to certain misfortunes. Unlike previous reincarnations, this reincarnation body still lived. More precisely, it lived in Gu An's current timeline, destined to die in the future. The reincarnation body was born in the War Spirit Holy Mansion, a Taoist lineage as ancient as Ling Mountain, unrelated to the battle court. Named Taishangju, like other reincarnation bodies, he was born in suffering and grew through countless hardships. The current Taishangju had already reached the cultivation level of Miaozhen Daluo Immortal. He would fall to the celestial court when he achieved Dao Extreme Daluo Immortal. Guan could sense that if he tried to contact Taishangju, he would face unimaginable repercussions of karmic retribution. Taishangju had already vaguely sensed his own karma, so before leaving the Great Thousand World, he scattered many white jade stones imbued with his Dao intent and hidden obsessions. Fearing exposure of his connection with Guan, he created these white jade stones. While they appeared to spread fortune, only his true self could fully comprehend them. Reincarnation is unstoppable, and past lives will eventually become fleeting clouds, yet obsessions might transcend reincarnation. Guan toyed with the white jade stone, pondering silently. Lu Han's obsession was his son Lu Qiuxian. Yang Xian's was the sacred heart sword Dao. The Black Profound Emperor's was his senior sister, Fairy Bai Xian. The Emperor of Eternal Lives' obsession was Fairy Yaoxian. Taishangju's obsession was to save his master. Born in War Spirit Holy Mansion, Taishangju's family was killed by enemies within the mansion right after his birth. If not for the chance encounter with the Red Dust Ancestor, he would have died too, and the Taishang lineage would have been completely eradicated. The Red Dust Ancestor took a liking to him because he was born with a Dao Saint Heart. The Dao Saint Heart is a rare fortune in the Great Dao, allowing effortless comprehension of the Dao, immunity to all evils, and invulnerability to all magic. He cultivated under the Red Dust Ancestor for millions of years, reaching the Tai Ching Golden Immortal Realm before venturing out on his own. He traveled to many places, including Ling Mountain. Notably, he encountered the Celestial Buddha before he accepted the Emperor of Eternal Life as his disciple. Guan speculated that this karma might be one reason for the Buddha's protection of the Emperor of Eternal Life. Despite his tragic beginnings, Taishangju had a bold and outgoing nature, always making friends through combat. Regardless of gender, if he wished to befriend someone, he first proposed a spar, though never forcing those who refused. He even befriended immortal gods, many of whom sought to ascend to immortality. One celestial god aspired to become the god of destruction. Linking this to the Black Profound Emperor's memories, Guan speculated that the celestial god and the god of destruction might indeed be the same person. Taishangju, now a Miaozhen Daluo Immortal, was born earlier than previous reincarnation bodies. His life was even more remarkable than that of the Emperor of Eternal Life, filled with justice and enmity, adored by many daughters of heaven. Yet, he was solely devoted to the Tao, saving many worlds and leaving behind legends and myths. However, life's journey was not always smooth. The Celestial Court sought to recruit him into the immortal class, but he refused, even clashing with immortal officials, completely defying celestial rules, incurring the Celestial Court's pursuit. After narrowly escaping death several times, he was attacked by a supreme immortal. As he was about to die, his master, the Red Dust Ancestor, appeared and saved him, though suffering severe injuries and a curse from the heavenly Tao. The master and disciple fled to a mysterious universe. The Red Dust Ancestor sealed himself, instructing that only the legendary eternal fruit could save him. Taishangju was devastated. To him, the Red Dust Ancestor was not just a master but a father. This was his first true setback, deeply affecting him. He changed completely, not immediately seeking the eternal fruit but focusing on cultivation, aiming to reach the Supreme Immortal's realm before re-emerging. Unfortunately, he underestimated the Celestial Court's power. Just as he set foot on the path of the Great Tao, immortal gods pursued him. Luckily, his cultivation was strong enough that the initial waves of immortal gods couldn't handle him. Until the Celestial Tao Venerable attacked, casting him into the desperate Celestial Tomb, where he endured the curse. Over the long years, Taishangju gradually lost consciousness. It wasn't until much later that he sensed a karma similar to his own. Using this karma to break free from the desperate celestial tomb, he escaped, leaving the other person behind in his place. Guan guessed this karma belonged to Fairy Yaoxian, specifically to her unborn child, the son of the Emperor of Eternal Life, Sin. Comprehending his origin and karma, Tai Shangju sensed his connection with the Emperor of Eternal Life. Both men realized they were reincarnation bodies, completing each other's redemption in their respective lives. Fairy Yaoxian suffered a karmic backlash, unable to return to the Tao. But the desperate celestial tomb was unique. Her child could hide there with time standing still. The giant palace where Sin resided was created by Tai Shangju, shielding him from the tomb's evil forces. Tai Shangju saved the Emperor of Eternal Live's son while the Emperor, through his offspring, helped Tai Shangju escape the tomb's suppression. Thinking of this, Guan felt deeply moved and somewhat proud. No wonder it's him. After escaping the tomb, Tai Shangju wandered the void of the Great Tao for a long time before returning to the Great Thousand World recently. He harbored a deep hatred for immortal gods but felt a slight kinship with Zhu Xi, deriving from their shared karma. That's why he acted against the immortal gods of the divine court. Though he seemed insane, he retained a shred of his will. He captured Han Sha, immortal monarch, to investigate the plot behind the demon god, intending to use the immortal gods for finding the eternal fruit. Tai Shangju was unaware of his destiny, but Guan, having inherited his memories, knew. Tai Shangju would cause many upheavals, ultimately falling to the celestial court, never finding the eternal fruit before his demise. He scattered the white jade stones across the 3,000 great worlds, fearing such an outcome. If he failed, he hoped his true self would help him find the eternal fruit. Since it's my own request, I naturally must help you. Guan looked down at the white jade stone, thinking thus. Inheriting Tai Shangju's memories deepened his comprehension of the Great Tao, and his soul began to transform. CTH Novelfire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Tao Saint Heart. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 714. He is also my master. Tai Shang's life was extraordinary and moving. To the very end, he became a figure representing rebellion against the celestial authority in the hearts of all living beings. Guan could not intervene in Tai Shang's life, nor did he intend to. Tai Shangju was his reincarnation body, and Guan had a guiding role in the path Tai Shangju walked. After all, during lifespan reincarnation, he could make choices for Tai Shangju. Moreover, Guan discovered that although the reincarnation bodies within lifespan reincarnation couldn't directly interact, they could intertwine through cause and effect. This gave Guan many ideas about the path of cause and effect. Lifespan reincarnation started from him, so none of his reincarnation bodies would appear in his world. They couldn't meet, nor would they affect each other's lives. The path of reincarnation seemed to have levels. Lower-level reincarnations followed a sequence over time, while higher-level ones could disregard time. Even the Supreme Celestial Emperor enjoyed reincarnation, but no one knew where he was. Tai Shang's master, the Red Dust Ancestor, once said that the Celestial Emperor was omnipresent, at the beginning and end of reincarnation. He could even appear simultaneously in different spaces and times. Could lifespan reincarnation be akin to the Celestial Emperor's path of reincarnation? Guan had wondered whether he might be related to the Celestial Emperor. But as soon as this idea was born, he dismissed it, thinking he was overthinking. His lifespan reincarnation couldn't penetrate the celestial court, indicating that celestial Tao destiny would block lifespan reincarnation. Also, his reincarnation bodies were repeatedly eradicated by heavenly court immortals, forming a grudge. Moreover, his reincarnation bodies were destined to die, their lives' end visible to him. With the setting sun sinking into the sea, Guan reviewed Tai Shang's memories while feeling his heart transform into a Tao Saint heart. Throughout this process, his many great Tao achievements were enhancing. Lifespan reincarnation was a gamble. If a reincarnation body died prematurely, it was a loss. But Tai Shangju lived long, and the benefits to Guan were immeasurable. Of course, lifespan reincarnation could also bring other cause and effect troubles. Though people couldn't directly deduce his identity through the reincarnation bodies, some causes and effects touched his heart. As night fell, Guan's heart fully transformed into a Tao Saint heart. Beyond that, He also mastered many of Taisheng's divine skills and Taoist techniques. He was Taishengju, and Taishengju was him. The night was cool, and the bright moon reflected on the sea. Guan lowered his eyes, crushed the white jade stone in his hand, feeling the Tao intent left by Taishengju, which would guide him to find the seal of the red dust ancestor. After a while, Sar the novel _fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan slowly stood up. Desperate celestial tomb, it's time to settle this cause and effect. Guan murmured to himself. With his current cultivation level, he could now detect the location of the desperate celestial tomb and sense the curse and evil forces within it. Sin and Fairy Yaoxian had suffered from the karma retribution from the great Tao of cause and effect, forever barred from the great Tao. The desperate celestial tomb, a special area within the great Tao, could accommodate Sin. The grand palace Taishengju built could shield Sin from torment. This was the only thing Taishengju could do. His cultivation level was not enough to counter the great Tao of cause and effect. Guan couldn't do it now either, but he was gradually able to see through the desperate celestial tomb. He foresaw that once he reached a higher realm, he could resolve the curse on Sin and bring Sin to Wuxia for cultivation. As for Fairy Yaoxian, still lost to the great Tao of cause and effect, he believed he could trace her through Sin. And Lu Qiuxian in the River of Destiny. Guan would find a way to help him escape the path of destiny. These tasks were not troublesome for Guan. They were remnants of his past lives, and through these past lives, he became stronger. Next, he would wait to live 1,000,000,000,000,000 years. Guan's lips curved upward as he disappeared from the spot. After the Tao court dissolved, the world fell into greater chaos. The 100 great sects scrambled for territory and resources, and all living beings gradually awakened. It turned out that the world's illness did not lie with the Tao court. The major sects of the world did not care what the people thought. They only saw unparalleled opportunities and wanted to compete to become the sole ruler of the world. Even the Chenkuan sect went mad, and the 5 leaders, I Ching Shan and others, could hardly control it. 1,000 years later, the human world remained in chaos, with constant slaughter. In a courtyard within the Chenkuan sect, I Ching Shan, Lin Chuan, Cheng Meng, Gu Chongsheng, and Gu Chengdao were entertaining an Xian. The 5 of them had founded the Chenkuan sect, now renowned across the world. Their disposition and mindset had matured, whereas an Xian seemed younger than them. We are truly old now. Even our juniors no longer listen to us. Cheng Meng sighed while pouring tea for an Xian. The others agreed. The entire Chenkuan sect was eager to expand, placing more value on cultivation resources than the virtues of the righteous Tao. With young talents like Yuan Luo leading the charge, many already sought to force the elders to relinquish power or even step down. An Xian spoke. Since ancient times, any sect that wishes to endure through the ages must undergo such trials. Now is the test for both Chenkuan sect and you. Guan only allowed her to protect the 9-spirit continent, so she couldn't interfere. She watched I Ching Shan and the others founding the Chenkuan sect. Over more than 1,000,000 years, new generations of disciples represented Chenkuan sect, paying tribute to her. Through these disciples, she sensed the growth of the Chenkuan sect. She regretted the fate that awaited it but wouldn't alter it. Forget it, we are tired. We founded the sect to seek revenge and rebuild our homeland. Now that these wishes are fulfilled, it's time to let go. I Ching Shan said with emotion, and the others agreed. They were truly weary and wanted to focus on their cultivation. An Xian did not refute. Perhaps it was the best outcome. I Ching Shan hesitated for a moment, then looked at an Xian and asked, "Senior, we've always wanted to know about our master's situation. Is he well?" Back then, they came here knowing Guan was in seclusion. They thought, like them, Guan was under Nzin's protection. After more than 1,000,000 years, Guan often went to Chenkuan sect but never met them. They could never forget the master who taught them immortal cultivation in their youth. Though they no longer remembered his face, his figure remained etched in their minds. An Xian put down her teacup and under their expectant gaze said, "He is well." These 3 words brought great joy to the 5. Actually, he is my master too. He has never needed my protection. It is he who protects me. By that, I can be considered your senior sister, an Xian calmly explained. These words left I Ching Shan and the others stunned. They witnessed Enzin's strength but did not know how powerful Guan was, as he once told them his realm was only the foundation establishment realm. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 715. Guan turned out to be Enzin's master. This fact deeply shocked I Ching Shan and the other four, their emotions unable to settle for a long time. It turns out that the master has always been here, secretly supporting them. They were filled with gratitude, and Cheng Meng's tears gushed out uncontrollably. I Ching Shan took a deep breath. He did not question Enzin's words but instead asked, "Can we enter Wuxia to cultivate, serving the old master?" The other four snapped back to reality, looking toward an Xin with anticipation. An Xin smiled and said, "I can't decide on this matter, I need to ask my master. You should first deal with the Chenkuan sect. Once you enter Wuxia, coming out won't be so easy." I Ching Shan and the others naturally knew this, and they hurriedly agreed, promising to handle the aftermath of the Chenkuan sect. Meanwhile, inside Wuxia Taoist field, Guan was picking mature medicinal herbs, the ghost mother of ephemera following behind. Suddenly, a series of prompts appeared in front of Guan. Frowny face. Your lifespan has broken through for the first time to 100 trillion years, beginning random upgrades of lifespan function. Your lifespan barrier function upgraded. Lifespan barrier upgraded successfully. Lifespan barrier. Consume lifespan to activate lifespan barrier. It can block all prying, perception, and deduction. The consumed lifespan is determined based on your cultivation aura and the required spiritual energy. The range of the lifespan barrier can be freely manipulated. As expected, it was an upgrade of function. Upgrading to lifespan barrier is indeed a good thing. Guan had long felt the lifespan barrier was too small. He wondered how large the new lifespan barrier could be and how much lifespan it would consume. The most important thing is, he can prepare to break through. Guan didn't stop what he was doing, continuing to pick medicinal herbs, only stopping after he finished harvesting all the herbs in this medicine garden. Search * the novel. F. Iyer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. All picked medicinal herbs were collected by the ghost mother of ephemera. Seeing him finished, the ghost mother of ephemera couldn't help but remark, "Master, what I most admire about you is your perseverance. Whether it's writing, painting, or picking medicinal herbs, you can persist for so many years. Watching you pick herbs, I feel every move contains profound meaning, embodying the principles of the great Tao." Guan couldn't help but laugh and said, "Your ability to flatter has reached the transformation realm." "I wasn't flattering. I truly think so," the ghost mother of ephemera said earnestly. After over 1,000,000 years together, she knew Guan was not a stern person, so she dared to speak her mind with him. The great Tao is everywhere. In anything done with persistence, you can sense the Tao. The primordial Tao Emperor perceives the path of natural Tao without fighting. Calming oneself to feel everything around is very important. Guan said sincerely, not speaking nonsense, for indeed the Tao is omnipresent, and the Wuxia Taoist field is filled with his Tao intent, making it easier to comprehend the Tao here. The ghost mother of ephemera nodded and said, "I usually strive to understand the Tao and have not neglected cultivation. Although you joined me not through good fortune, after spending so many years together, I've always seen your efforts. You should feel that I treat you like a disciple, right?" Guan said while stretching. The ghost mother of ephemera nodded quickly and said, "Master's kindness to me, I've always seen it." Over 1,000,000 years, she has come to manage the medicinal herbs planting, with the third-generation disciples only assisting her. These treatments made her understand Guan indeed valued her, proving her efforts have moved him. The two chatted casually as they moved forward, with the ghost mother of ephemera cherishing such opportunities. An hour later, Guan finally left Wuxia Taoist field alone. He walked in the woods on the edge of the Chenkuan sect, silently practicing lifespan breakthrough. You have activated lifespan breakthrough function, and based on your current realm, the following breakthrough sites are selected for you. 1. Path of the Great Tao. 2. War Spirit Holy Mansion. 3. Hongmeng Great World. 4. Deep Domain. 5. Johong Great World. 6. Endless Tao Mountain. 7. Boundless Yin Yang Inverted Realm. 8. Final End, 9. Supreme Origin Forest. Some places appeared before, and some were seen for the first time, unheard of. Guan first thought that the foundations of Path of the Great Tao, War Spirit Holy Mansion, Hongmeng Great World, and Endless Tao Mountain are terribly frightening, capable of nurturing beings surpassing Tao Extreme Daoyuo Immortal. Like the Great Thousand World, it simply couldn't bear his breakthrough. Now he felt the Celestial Spirit Great World was fragile. If he sneezed hard enough, the Celestial Spirit Great World would shatter. Not just the ground beneath him. The entire universe couldn't withstand his power. Thinking it over, Guan decided to go somewhere new. After all, lifespan breakthrough would transport him to a safe place. Guan's gaze fell on the 9th option, Supreme Origin Forest, which had appeared before. It was worth checking out. Boundless Yin-Yang Inverted Realm and Final End sounded dangerous and strange. Better not to test them. Guan decided. Teleporting to Supreme Origin Forest requires consuming 10 billion years of lifespan. Continue. Continue. Guan made the choice, his figure disappearing from the original spot. After a long-awaited state of no sensation, Guan opened his eyes, immediately activated lifespan barrier, then began to observe his surroundings. He stood above a silver-blue chi sea, with gigantic silver trees towering in front of him. The narrowest tree had a diameter exceeding 1,000 zhong, while far off were terrifying giant trees with diameters surpassing millions, billions of li, making everything seem tiny in comparison. These silver trees were peculiar, entwined with various Tao rules, some even bearing fruits which were transparent, containing slices of heavens and worlds within. He could even sense the vitality of living spirits. Such heavens and worlds numbered countless, more than the stars outside the celestial spirit great world. This is the Supreme Origin Forest. Guan looked down, the silver-blue chi sea underneath felt like solid land, yet within it lay an even more expansive region, deep and unfathomable like another great heaven and earth. He looked carefully and found numerous soul-like entities drifting in the depths, some human-like, some beast-like, bizarre and diverse. Moreover, the Tao spiritual chi here was extremely abundant and very unique. He had never felt such fresh spiritual chi. He looked up again, gazing at the source trees all around. This mysterious and grandiose forest contained a special Tao mystery. Each tree seemed like a part of a formation. The Supreme Origin Forest is extraordinary. Guan stopped thinking further and focused on the lifespan barrier. With the lifespan barrier successfully upgraded, he could use his mind to enter the macro manipulation scene of the lifespan barrier and expand it through thought. The expansion seemed endless. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 716. Breakthrough to Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Guan fumbled around the lifespan barrier at the original spot, eventually expanding the barrier to cover an area equivalent to that of the 9 spirit continent. He called up his attribute panel and invested 100 billion years of lifespan into his physique. Using 400 billion years of lifespan, the primordial reincarnation undying body upgraded to the primordial Tao creation body, but even 1,000 billion years wouldn't be enough for the next advancement. This time, he didn't plan to enhance himself comprehensively but instead focused entirely on his cultivation level. The reason for upgrading his physique was to observe how quickly the lifespan barrier now consumed lifespan. Numerous prompts quickly appeared before his eyes. The 100 billion years of lifespan did not upgrade his physique. Since he already invested in it, he had to succeed. Guan continued to invest lifespan, putting in increments of 100 billion years each time. This investment turned out to be much greater than he anticipated, rapidly surpassing 1 trillion years, making him somewhat regretful. The leap was too significant. From 400 billion years of lifespan to 1 trillion years of lifespan. Guan suddenly felt that even 1 quadrillion years of lifespan wasn't that much. Eventually, the primordial Tao creation body transformed into the primordial infinite creation Tao body, totaling 5 trillion years of lifespan consumed. From 400 billion years to 5 trillion years, an increase of over 100 times. Just for the addition of infinite? Guan took a deep breath, and the Tao spirit chi of the Supreme Origin Forest began to surge violently into his body. He fixed his gaze on the lifespan barrier, watching the lifespan numbers flash by rapidly. Though faster, the consumption was still within an acceptable range. Before long, numerous Tao insights penetrated his mind, forcing his consciousness to sink into the comprehension of the Tao. The lifespan barrier extracted Tao spirit chi from the supreme origin forest, causing various phenomena to manifest. Tao spirit winds howling through each source tree, while the blue chi sea below surged ever more intensely. An hour later, Guan successfully transformed into the primordial infinite creation Tao body. He opened his eyes to find the supreme origin forest still in turmoil, with countless blue stars swirling around each source tree, illuminating the entire world. Not seeing other beings, he focused on the lifespan consumption of the barrier. 3,000 billion years of lifespan. Still acceptable. He now had 940 trillion years of lifespan remaining, though inexplicably, he felt a slight sense of crunch. Taking a deep breath and clearing his mind, he began to invest lifespan into his cultivation level. Starting with 10 trillion years. You have cultivated through chi absorption for 100 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9-yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. You have cultivated through chi absorption for 200 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9-yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. 100 billion years each time. Good heavens! Earlier, advancing to Tao extreme Daluo immortal only required 20 billion years each time, highlighting the vast difference between Tao extreme Daluo immortal and primordial Tao fruit. Though this difference created pressure, it also heightened Guan's anticipation. Previously, breaking through the major realm consumed 23 trillion years of lifespan. This time it should succeed within 50 trillion years lifespan. Calculating the prompts before him, Guan's heart raced. Ultimately, even investing 10 trillion years of lifespan each time failed to succeed. Guan remained calm and continued investing lifespan, still putting in 10 trillion years each time. The phenomena in Supreme Origin Forest were calming down, with the giant source trees radiating various shades of silver-blue light, making the whole world seem magical. After a while, Guan's expression began to turn grim. Even investing 100 trillion years lifespan failed to break through. Clearly, it was impossible to reach the perfection realm for the next major realm this time. No matter what, achieving the next major realm first was a must. A determined look in Guan's eyes, he continued investing lifespan. However, the next 10 trillion years lifespan also failed to see success. He started to imagine the terror of the primordial 9-yang great celestial tribulation. Someday, he would have Yang Jian and Li Xuanmiao investigate this tribulation in the celestial court, to understand the difficulty of the tribulation he was crossing. After a while, Guan's investment in his cultivation level surpassed 40 trillion years lifespan but still no success. He continued to invest. You have cultivated through chi absorption for 5,400 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation, but failed to withstand the primordial 9-yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation failed. You have cultivated through chi absorption for 5,500 billion years. You forcefully attempted to advance the primordial Tao fruit with great achievement using the myriad Tao extinction skill, began crossing the tribulation. You withstood the primordial 9-yang great celestial tribulation. Tribulation succeeded. Your cultivation level advanced to the early stage of Xian Qi primordial immortal realm. You have cultivated through chi absorption for 1 trillion years. Your cultivation level increased. Finally succeeded. From the perfection realm of Tao extreme Daluo immortal to the early stage of Xian Qi primordial immortal realm, it actually took 43,500 billion years of lifespan. Truly exaggerated. So long as the breakthrough succeeded, Guan was revitalized, anticipating the might of Xian Qi primordial immortal. The Tao spirit Qi in this realm surged abruptly, the dark sky suddenly lit up, and Guan saw a gigantic mountain larger than the entire celestial spirit great worlds heaven and earth. No, it wasn't a mountain, but a source tree. Squinting, Guan saw an even larger presence behind the source tree. So the novel, F.I.R. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. This realm was also boundless. Even with the cultivation level of Tao extreme Daluo immortal, it was impossible to see an end in a short time. As Guan was about to break through, the Tao rules within Supreme Origin Forest started to disorderly scatter. Unlike the previous phenomena during breakthroughs, Now the Tao rules became perilous, even twisting space. The Tao seemed to sense danger, instinctively resisting, and when the Tao gets angry, the world it built naturally faces upheavals. The blue chi sea beneath Guan surged violently, like a storm-tossed sea, the waves rising higher and higher. Suddenly, Guan glanced into the distance, and felt a formidable presence emerging from a distant source tree, stronger than Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal, searching for the cause of the Tao disturbance. Such a powerful presence, and it seems closely linked to the source tree here. Could it be that the Supreme Origin Forest is his creation, and he established the formations for the forest distribution? Guan remained vigilant, fortunate that the entity did not fly towards him. Even an existence surpassing Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal couldn't detect the lifespan barrier. As Guan pondered, he suddenly felt numerous presences rushing out from the blue chi sea below, ceaselessly and irresistibly. Boom! In the distance, the blue chi sea exploding and stirring up giant waves, countless silver cheilants of varying sizes rushed out, scrambling for the sky. Guan could sense the strength of these silver cheilants. Even the weakest had the cultivation level of free immortal, and the strongest reached the heaven-opening Daluo immortal realm. As they sped away, those chaotic Tao rules actually avoided them, not causing them harm, making Guan curious about these silver cheilants. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 717. My name is Guan. Guan watched the group of silver cheilin for a moment, then his consciousness was drawn to the enlightenment of the great Tao breakthrough, and he quickly entered a state of enlightenment. Primordial Tao Fruit. This is the final stage of the Tao Fruit, and also the beginning of the Tao realm. The so-called Xian Qi belongs to his Tao Qi, and his destiny will converge here as well. The Tao Fruit is not just formed to induce mana. Its true goal is to create the great Tao. Guan has already created his great Tao, which is the primordial Tao Emperor. In the unseen, the word primordial has long been inspiring him. The ultimate of Tao is primordial. As Guan comprehended the primordial, he returned to the starting point of each of his lives, repeating his life endlessly. In his past life on Earth Huaxia, he was just an ordinary person, growing up stumbling, working an ordinary job, marrying, having children, and living a life like most people. As Chu Lu, Xiao Shengtian, Long Zhan, Black Profound Emperor, Lu Hanqi, he lived the rugged and arduous life of immortal cultivation. As Ji Shi, he lived an adventurous life of battles, fighting continuously from the moment he gained awareness, constantly breaking through in battles, traveling to different worlds and realms for battles, never stopping until death. As Yang Xian, he was obsessed with sword Tao, living only for the sword. As Emperor of Eternal Life, he could not achieve eternal life due to his obsession, and the repetition of his life left Guan deeply exhausted. As Tai Shangju, he was like a true cultivator, carefree before offending the celestial court, traveling across the heavens, making good friends, experiencing enmities and lovers' feuds, even reincarnating, meeting immortals, going to the 9 netherworlds, and even beyond the great Tao. The breakthrough of lifespan could be completely digested within an hour, but Guan, immersed in reincarnations, seemed to fall into a permanent sleep. When he opened his eyes, his appearance had not changed, but his overall aura had undergone a tremendous transformation. He was no longer a Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal, but a Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Opening his eyes again, everything in the Supreme Origin Forest had changed in his eyes. He saw the end of the Supreme Origin Forest, where a blue chi sea flowed down, falling into endless darkness. Everything in the Supreme Origin Forest was in his eyes, including those hiding in the shadows. The powerful existence he had previously startled was a Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. Although he couldn't determine if the other's cultivation level was higher than his, the other did not make him feel in danger. Apart from the Xian Qi Primordial Immortal, the second strongest in the Supreme Origin Forest was a Miaozhen Daluo Immortal, the realm master of the Supreme Origin Forest, ruling over countless living beings, all of whom lived far away. The lifespan breakthrough had transported Guan far from them. Guan could see through their cause and effect. The Xian Qi Primordial Immortal was the one who created the Supreme Origin Forest. Of course, this world was not created by the Xian Qi Primordial Immortal. He merely opened those source trees, subduing the Tao spiritual Qi of the world under the trees. Those silver Qilin were Tao source Qilin, divine beasts raised by the Xian Qi primordial immortal. Of course, neither the Tao source Qilin nor those living beings knew of the Xian Qi primordial immortal's existence. Like-minded people, reclusive in the world. Guan withdrew his gaze and lowered his head to look at his hands. So strong. Unbelievable that I could become this powerful. Guan murmured to himself. At this moment, he felt invincible. He could even sit here and gaze at the 3,000 great worlds, the celestial spirit great world, misty immortal court, and desperate celestial tomb all in his view. Countless parallel worlds, little worlds of varying sizes formed by intertwining cause and effect, all presented before him, enough to drive those immortals insane. Guan looked at his lifespan. This breakthrough had consumed more than 20 trillion years of his lifespan, leaving him with less than 30 trillion years. Breaking through to the perfection realm seemed impossible. But another minor realm breakthrough should not be difficult. Guan began to invest his lifespan into his cultivation level. He spent 19 trillion years of his lifespan and successfully reached the mid-stage of the Xian Qi primordial immortal realm. Opening his eyes again, the Tao rules of the supreme origin forest were still rampant, countless Tao source Qilin and cultivators patrolling everywhere. But as vast as this realm was, they never passed over Guan's head. Guan looked at his lifespan, now less than 6 trillion years. Search the novel Fire, any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Let's stop here. Guan stood up, looking in the direction of the Xian Qi primordial immortal. He didn't plan to make acquaintances with the other. His breakthrough needed to be kept hidden. Although it needed to be hidden, the leap in strength gave him more confidence to deal with any trouble the celestial court might bring. He could already see the location of the celestial court, where the celestial Tao destiny was vast and scorching, sacred and inviolable. Guan silently activated the teleportation function of the lifespan breakthrough. In fact, he could just jump out directly, but there was a Xian Qi primordial immortal here, and he feared leaving traces. He didn't want to gamble because he could easily earn back this bit of lifespan. After returning to the celestial spirit great world, he didn't go back to the Taoist field of the beginningless but stepped out of the outer heaven, arriving at the desperate celestial tomb. The desperate celestial tomb was still desolate, with dust everywhere, massive buildings buried by sand and wind, mysterious and ominous. Fairy Yaoxuan's 1,000-foot-long finger was still there, pierced into the ground. The original power within had disappeared, replaced by the sinister energy of the desperate celestial tomb. Guan raised his hand and placed the giant finger into his sleeve, then stepped towards the massive palace where Sin was hiding. This 1,000-foot-long finger would have descended upon the 3,000 great worlds in the future, bringing terrible catastrophe to all living beings. But now, this fate had been changed. At least this finger would no longer affect the 3,000 great worlds. As Guan walked, the wind and sand swirled around him, unable to touch him. Sinister powers were brewing within the desperate celestial tomb, but they couldn't harm the Xian Qi primordial immortal. He walked through this realm, completely unaffected. As he walked, he continued to comprehend the desperate celestial tomb. This realm buried an ancient skeleton, too long deceased for Guan to determine its cultivation level. But from this point, it could be inferred it was likely the skeleton of a Xian Qi primordial immortal. Otherwise, why would he need to reach the Xian Qi primordial immortal level to be unaffected by this realm? Guan always felt that this Xian Qi primordial immortal would revive again. The sinister power of this realm was spreading out from his skeleton, as if feeding on the blood and qi of living beings to prepare for resurrection. Of course, this matter had nothing to do with him. He was not interested in interfering with other cause and effect. As long as they didn't provoke him, he would not hinder their path of survival. Finally, he arrived in front of the massive palace where Sin lived. The door was slightly ajar, only a crack visible, but up close, this crack also appeared very wide, the inside pitch black, like a gateway to the nine nether purgatory. He did not step into the palace, only waited at the crack of the door. Soon, footsteps came from the darkness. A young boy slowly poked his head out of the darkness, curiously looking at Guan, cautiously asking, "Who are you? Why are you here?" He spoke the language of the immortal cultivation realm. It seemed Fairy Yaoxuan's finger had helped him a lot. Guan showed a smile and said, "My name is Guan, I've come to take you home. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 7:18. As the sun set and dusk enveloped the mountain range, Guan and Sin paced through the forest's edge, their shadows elongating under the slanting rays of the sun. Trailing behind Guan, Sin glanced left and right with wide-eyed curiosity. He was fascinated by every flower, plant, and tree, a stark contrast to the lifeless scenery of the desperate celestial tomb. Every now and then, Sin would look towards Guan, his eyes filled with wonder. Although he didn't know Guan, he felt an inexplicable warmth upon first sight. Of course, this was primarily because he had yet to form any perceptions, not understanding good from evil or the intricacies of human nature. As they walked, Guan and Sin encountered one of the third-generation disciples, Zhonglan, practicing his swordsmanship in the woods. Upon noticing Guan, Zhonglan immediately stood upright and bowed. He then noticed Sin at Guan's side. Another junior brother? Zhonglan wondered silently. He scrutinized Sin, noting that despite his young appearance, there was something unusually eerie about his aura. After all, those who entered within the beginningless must be extraordinarily talented. However, here within the beginningless, even such talent is measured by another standard. Zhonglan considered himself mediocre among the disciples. Guan nodded slightly towards Zhonglan. As he passed by, he halted and said, "This is your junior uncle named Sin." Junior uncle? Zhonglan was taken aback, feeling a wave of surprise. Did Ancestor just personally take on a disciple? Guan continued on his way as Zhonglan, coming back to his senses, quickly bowed deeply towards Sin and addressed him as junior uncle. Sin, full of curiosity, moved in front of Zhonglan, poking his arm and then his cheek, making Zhonglan quite uneasy. "Sin, hurry and follow," Guan's voice drifted in. Sin quickly caught up. Zhonglan turned and watched as Sin, glancing back, made a playful face at him. For some reason, Zhonglan found this amusing and felt the distance between them shrink. It even made him look forward to the days ahead. With a new junior uncle, the future days within the beginningless seemed sure to be lively. Zhonglan sheathed his sword and quietly followed them. The novel Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As night fell, all the beginningless disciples gathered in Guan's courtyard, making the place feel a bit crowded. Everyone curiously examined Sin, even an Xian and Xinjian were surprised. They never expected Guan to take on a disciple. Sin, not yet understanding what it meant to be nervous or uneasy, curiously scanned the crowd despite their stares. "His name is Sin, and I have personally taken him on as my disciple. His origins are unique, coming from beyond the 3,000 great worlds. Although he looks young, he is actually much older than anyone here. He was trapped for a long time, and I expect you all to guide him well," Guan introduced with a smile, causing everyone to be amazed. LV Xian was the first to ask, "Beyond the 3,000 great worlds? What kind of place is that?" The third-generation disciples were hearing for the first time about places beyond the 3,000 great worlds. They knew Ancestor was incredibly powerful, but the extent of his abilities was unclear. Hearing this, they felt a sense of awe and admiration. Not to mention places beyond the 3,000 great worlds, they hadn't even explored this great world entirely. It is a place unimaginably distant. Even if you surpass a free immortal, you won't be able to reach it, but as long as you cultivate diligently, one day you might arrive there yourself, Guan answered simply, not revealing the existence of the desperate celestial tomb. That place held the bones of a Xian-Qi primordial immortal and involved complicated cause and effect. The disciples began to discuss animatedly. An Xian softly said to Guan, "Master, don't worry, I will personally teach him." She knew Guan was busy and couldn't keep an eye on every disciple all the time. Of course, she also knew what Guan was preoccupied with, but she believed that after achieving such strength, he deserved to enjoy himself, given the hardships he had faced. "No worries. You focus on your cultivation. I will teach him personally, or let Ghost Mother guide him," Guan smiled and said. Sin had been trapped in the desperate celestial tomb for so many years, and Guan intended to make up for that by guiding him personally and broadening his horizons. Additionally, Guan had his own reasons for involving the Ghost Mother of Ephemera, wishing for her to integrate better into the beginningless. After hearing this, an Xian couldn't help but wonder internally. Could Sin be Master's son? She turned to look at Sin but couldn't see any resemblance to Guan. Everyone could sense Guan's regard for Sin, and together with Sin's mysterious origin, All were filled with curiosity about him. Sin's curiosity about everything made the following days within the beginningless very lively. In the blink of an eye, 100 years passed. The Qiankuan sect plunged into internal strife. After Yi Qing-shan abdicated the sect hierarch position to Yuan Luo, conflicts between various factions became incessant, with hidden dangers lurking everywhere. At the onset of spring that year, Guan took Sin to visit Jiang Qiong at the Gathering Flower sect. The Gathering Flower sect seized an opportunity to rapidly expand, and with Gu An's help, Jiang Qiong achieved the status of free immortal, an entity with considerable influence even in the current era. Watching Sin darting around outside the pavilion, Jiang Qiong was filled with curiosity. Although Sin still looked like a youth, dressed in white with a red sash around his waist, his black hair tied up high behind his head, he carried an air of vigor and spirit. "Is he really your disciple?" "He feels more like your son," Jiang Qiong remarked, turning to Guan with a puzzled expression. Looking at Sin, she couldn't help but recall her first meeting with Guan. Though he was already grown then, he seemed much more immature compared to now. Guan laughed. "What's the difference between disciple and son? Once a teacher, forever a father." Jiang Qiong, propping her chin with her hand, looked at Guan with a playful smile. "Do you want a biological son? I could give you one." Guan shook his head with a wry smile. "You and I are cultivators, what need do we have for children?" He truly believed this. He didn't want to complicate things with cause and effect any further. Unlike disciples, one can't sever ties with one's children so easily. Given his current abilities and the resources of the beginningless Dao court, having children might result in raising little tyrants. Most importantly, Guan really didn't have expectations towards having children. "Master, can I go out and play?" Sin stood on the courtyard wall and called out. Guan replied, "Go ahead, but don't wander too far." Just as Jiang Qiong was about to speak, Sin vanished from the courtyard wall. This movement technique surprised Jiang Qiong. His speed far surpassed that of his realm. This kid's talent and comprehension seemed extraordinary. Jiang Qiong said, "I wanted to ask someone to accompany him, but he's in such a rush." Guan laughed. "Don't worry, this kid won't get into trouble. It's good he's out, it gives me the chance to instruct you personally." Jiang Qiong's face lit up with a smile, her eyes narrowing to crescent moons. "Actually, I do have some confusions that need your guidance." As she spoke, her hand gently rested on Gu An's leg. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 719, The Anxious Blood Prison. Great Saint. After staying at the Gathering Flower sect for 2 days, Guan finally returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless with Zue, walking in the woods at the edge of the dojo. Zue hopped and skipped beside Guan. "Master, when are we going back to the Gathering Flower sect?" Zue asked cheerfully. Compared to a century ago, Zue had become more lively. He was already at the Nirvana realm in cultivation, and had officially embarked on the path of immortal cultivation. Fairy Yaoxian had left him some power, which Guan had sealed to prevent karma retribution from the Great Tao. "Why? Have you found a girl you like?" Guan asked with a smile. Even without Jiang Qiong's arrangements, Zue had quickly made friends with several female disciples of the Gathering Flower sect in just 2 days. Mainly because he was handsome and young, he attracted the attention of female cultivators wherever he went. He wasn't shy and could chat with anyone. Zue tilted his head and replied, "Those little sisters are indeed very cute, and I enjoy interacting with them. But compared to them, I think there are many places and people in the Gathering Flower sect worth exploring." He wasn't immature. He was just accustomed to his physical form, so he maintained this appearance. His mind was constantly growing, and he understood the feelings between men and women, but he had no interest in such relationships. Guan could hear his thoughts. This kid just wanted to have fun. "Then you need to cultivate diligently. If you perform well, it'll take you there again in the future." Guan replied with a smile. "Master, you're the best." Zue immediately became happy and hugged Guan's arm, excitedly talking about what he had seen and heard in the past 2 days. After walking for a while, Zue suddenly noticed someone. It was a young woman who was injured and leaning against a large tree, cultivating energy to heal herself. Hearing the conversation and laughter between Guan and Zue, She opened her eyes and looked wary. Guan pretended not to see her and continued forward. As they got closer, the young woman grew increasingly nervous. Zue also stopped talking and curiously looked at the young woman. It was only when Guan passed by her that she secretly relaxed. Seeing that Guan didn't say anything, Zue didn't ask further questions. After the two of them disappeared at the end of the woods, the young woman finally completely let go of her stress. Wait, this is a forbidden area. Are they people from the beginningless? The young woman thought to herself. A sudden impulse to chase after them arose. She was being pursued and had fled here. If she could get help from the beginningless, she might escape from this ordeal. As soon as this thought was born, a surge of unexplained fear rose in her heart, making her quickly give up the idea. On the other side, Guan and Zue stepped into the dojo's range. Although Zue's cultivation level wasn't high, he could feel the sudden surge of spiritual energy, and he knew he was home. Master, that person just now seemed injured. Is there a problem with the Chenkuan sect? Zue couldn't help but ask. He had been to the Chenkuan sect before but hadn't sensed the internal conflicts of the sect. Guan looked ahead with a long gaze and said slowly, "The Chenkuan sect is going to disband. Our dojo will become larger in the future. Are you happy?" "What's there to be happy about with it becoming larger? Master, there are so many people on this continent. Are you going to drive them away?" Zue pursued. "What do you hope I should do?" "I hope you will let them stay. This way, the beginningless will become more lively. Of course, this is just my idea. If you fear disturbance in cultivation, then drive them away." Zue replied. In his heart, his master was already the most important person. He listened to his master's words and would never forget the long, tedious years in the desperate celestial tomb. Since that's the case, let's do as you wish and let them stay on the continent. Guan patted Zue's head and smiled with satisfaction. He cared more about Zue's character than his cultivation level. Without a heart of compassion, one would eventually walk down an extreme path. Hearing this, Zue became even happier, but Guan continued, "Letting them stay is fine, but you must not bully them in the future. Regardless of their cultivation level, you must always respect others. Understand?" "Don't worry, Master. I will remember it," Zue said. The two of them chatted as they walked toward the forest ahead. The mountain forest of the Taoist field of the beginningless seemed vast and boundless, but in the Nine-Spirit continent, it was just a small piece. The affairs of the world are much the same. The Chenkuan sect is experiencing a great calamity. Many people feel that the sky has fallen, but their sky seems insignificant in the grand scheme of the world. On a meteor along the path of the Great Tao, the Blood Prison Great Saint, Feng Xian, and 5 other cultivators sat together, the atmosphere heavy. A male cultivator looked at the Blood Prison Great Saint and couldn't help but ask, "Second brother, do you have to go back? Haven't our 7 brothers lived a joyful and carefree life?" The others followed in urging him. The reason was that the Blood Prison Great Saint was preparing to leave the path of the Great Tao and return to his sect, which they couldn't understand. Is being someone's steed really that good? Now, the 7 of them roamed the path of the Great Tao. Even if they encountered a Taoist emperor, the 7 of them together had the power to escape. They had already made a name for themselves, and their future was bright. Feng Xian understood Guan's strength. He knew that the Blood Prison Great Saint's choice was correct, though he was still reluctant. He could only refrain from persuading or agreeing. The Blood Prison Great Saint glared and said, "Shut up! My master is the most powerful existence. You cannot offend him. Moreover, my return is the best choice and leaves you a lifeline." "A lifeline? Why?" another cultivator asked. The Blood Prison Great Saint snorted, "The Great Tao is boundless. You will eventually encounter enormous trouble. When that time comes, ask me, and I can ask my master to help." These words left everyone exchanging glances, unsure of how to respond. "Actually, you can stay." A voice suddenly sounded. The Blood Prison Great Saint was about to retort when he widened his eyes and stood up abruptly, turning around to see Guan and Zue approaching them. "Master!" The Blood Prison Great Saint was immediately thrilled and knelt to the ground. The others stood up, curiously and nervously studying Guan and Zue. Feng Xian's forehead broke out in cold sweat, his entire body stiffening as he recalled the nightmare of following the battle court to attack the celestial spirit great world. Zue followed behind Gu-en, curiously looking at the 7 of them. Gu-en walked straight up to the blood prison great saint, looked down at him and said with a smile, "You can think it over carefully. If you want to stay outside, I won't force you to come back. Our bond remains." Although the blood prison great saint was said to be his steed, he was actually no different from a disciple, as Gu-en didn't need a steed in his daily life. Having spent so much time together, Gu-en had grown very fond of the blood prison great saint and saw him as one of his own. "Impossible. I said I would be your steed for life. Unless you chase me away, I cannot leave you," the blood prison great saint said anxiously, his heart in chaos. "Has my master found a new steed during my absence? Is it Celestial Cyan, Tion Bai, or another Demonis? Damn it!" Gu-en heard his thoughts and felt helpless. Why are they always demonesses? Curse him for thinking such things. Gu-en said exasperatedly, "All right, then stand up. You can come back with me later." The blood prison great saint beamed with joy and stood up immediately. Seeing him grinning foolishly in front of Gu-en, Feng Xian and the other 5 found it absurd. They had never seen the blood prison great saint so obsequious. Feng Xian was somewhat prepared, knowing Gu-en's identity, but the other 5 were filled with curiosity, wanting to know about Gu-en's origins. "Master, why are you here? Did you specifically come to pick me up? With your divine skills, a wave of your hand could transport me back," the blood prison great saint asked curiously. His words made his 5 sworn brothers secretly alarmed. Gu-en replied, "Indeed, I came to pick you up and to help you all with a problem." "A problem?" The blood prison great saint and the others were puzzled. Feng Xian cautiously asked, "Sword? Senior, what problem do we have?" Gu-en looked at him, causing Feng Xian to lower his gaze in fear, feeling very uncomfortable. This surprised the other 5. S.E. the novel. F. Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Why is Big Brother so afraid of second brother's master? Gu-en answered, "You have been too bold in your actions and have offended a Taoist emperor. Behind him is the Ascending to Yellow Heaven sect. This void has already been sealed. You have nowhere to escape. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 720. Yellow Heaven Golden Rain Ascending to Yellow Heaven. Hearing this name, the blood prison great saint, Feng Xian, and the others' faces changed drastically. Having roamed the path of the great Tao for so many years, they naturally knew the fame of ascending to Yellow Heaven. It was an extremely ancient cosmic plane, mysterious and powerful. The blood prison great saint turned his head to look at the others, frowning and asking, "Who has a vendetta with ascending to Yellow Heaven?" Everyone looked at each other, and one yellow-robed Taoist carefully said, "I haven't offended ascending to Yellow Heaven, but I encountered a cultivator from ascending to Yellow Heaven before. He was very interested in the primordial Tao Emperor, so we had a conversation." The blood prison great saint widened his eyes and said angrily, "So you revealed us to him as well?" The yellow-robed Taoist responded aggrievedly, "Second brother, didn't you and eldest brother say that we should promote the primordial Tao Emperor more? The stronger the overall destiny of the primordial Tao Emperor, the more benefit we receive." The blood prison great saint was stuck, only looking at him angrily. Feng Xian was not nervous because Gu-en had come personally. Though ascending to Yellow Heaven was renowned, he could never forget the scene of Gu-en single-handedly suppressing the battle court, a memory that haunted him forever. "Master, will you help us teach ascending to Yellow Heaven a lesson?" The blood prison great saint turned to Gu-en, asking expectantly. If Gu-en could take action, it would greatly boost his reputation. He often boasted to his brothers about his master's strength, but seeing is believing, and he wanted to show his brothers their master's power. Most importantly, the master was taking action for him, proving that he had chosen the right person to follow. The others also looked at Gu-en, even though they didn't know how strong he was. However, over the long years, they often heard the blood prison great saint boast about the strength of the Lord of Wuxia, which piqued their curiosity. Moreover, Gu-en said that ascending to Yellow Heaven had already surrounded this void, yet he could sneak in unnoticed, which indicated his confidence in confronting ascending to Yellow Heaven. Guan did not answer the Blood Prison Great Saint but instead introduced Zue to him. Blood Prison Great Saint, I've often heard my mentors mention you. Zue said obediently, which made the Blood Prison Great Saint warm to him immediately, responding with a hearty laugh. The Blood Prison Great Saint appeared casual, but his mind was filled with curiosity. Where did this boy come from? He must have an extraordinary background to be brought here by the master for exposure. Guan smiled and said, You all sit down first, wait for ascending to Yellow Heaven to make the first move. He took out the fate pen, which he had now reforged. It was as long as a treasure sword, its bristles like 3,000 white threads, exuding immortal energy. Their gazes were drawn to the fate pen, and at first sight, they felt it to be an immortal treasure. Since the master has spoken, everyone sit down and watch the show, said the Blood Prison Great Saint, then beckoned to Zue, letting him sit by his side. He had many questions for Zue. Guan turned his back to them, spinning the fate pen with one hand. He could destroy ascending to Yellow Heaven now, but he wanted to use this opportunity to show others the power of the primordial Tao Emperor. In fact, he had a personal grudge with ascending to Yellow Heaven, or more accurately, a past life grudge. It was the Emperor of Absolute Thought from ascending to Yellow Heaven who killed Long Xian. That was an existence even the silent destruction god Emperor couldn't contend with. To the current Guan, the Emperor of Absolute Thought was nothing. The strongest within ascending to Yellow Heaven reached only the heaven-opening Daluo immortal realm, and there were only 3 of them. Of course, having 3 heaven-opening Daluo immortals as support made ascending to Yellow Heaven exceptionally formidable. Besides the Daluo immortals, ascending to Yellow Heaven had over 100,000 golden immortals. To know, most celestial gods guarding the Great Thousand World only reached the innate golden immortal realm. By comparison, one can see how terrifying ascending to Yellow Heaven's foundation was. The Blood Prison Great Saint chatted with Zue, and though Feng Xian and the 6 others sat down, they dared not speak. Soon, they were drawn by Zue's words, as he spoke of the current situation of Wuxia, sparking their curiosity. As time ticked away. An hour later, the Blood Prison Great Saint turned his head to Guan, about to ask where ascending to Yellow Heaven was, when suddenly, a dark yellow light screen descended from the darkness at the top of the void. It moved so fast that it quickly enveloped the void they were in. The meteor under their feet seemed like a tiny speck of sand within the light screen, insignificantly small. Everyone's faces changed dramatically, rising to their feet, looking up. Sir the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Within the dark yellow light screen, they saw golden rain falling from the top of the universe, growing heavier. As it was about to fall on the meteor, the golden rain turned to mist, quickly dispersing. Ascending to Yellow Heaven's Yellow Heaven Golden Rain. This rain has extremely strong corrosive properties, capable of annihilating both the soul and form of a being. At the same time, it can imprison time and space, locking cause and effect, making it impossible for the enemy to escape. Feng Xian said, his tone heavy, eyes filled with tension. Even though he had full confidence in Guan, seeing the legendary Yellow Heaven Golden Rain still made him feel uneasy, a primal response to the terrifying power. As the golden mist spread, the cosmos brightened, but the area around the meteor became hazy and eerie. Looking around, they could see no exit. The speed at which the Yellow Heaven Golden Rain descended was incredibly fast. They felt the weight pressing on their flesh and souls, as if an invisible giant mountain was crushing them, making it hard to breathe. Zue, however, was not nervous, only curiously observing his surroundings. After leaving the desperate celestial tomb for so many years, he had seen battles and slaughter, but he had never seen his master fight. This filled him with anticipation. 2 primordial Tao emperors, I come today, hoping not to disturb you? A vast and commanding voice echoed through the cosmos. As the words fell, terrifying figures appeared in the golden mist surrounding the meteor. Dragon and phoenix shadows, and other figures resembling Chilants and Suanis flew by. A majestic figure appeared before them, like a creator god overseeing all beings from outer heaven, exuding an overwhelming sense of pressure, making people instinctively want to kneel. The Blood Prison Great Saint was secretly shocked. Having achieved the realm of a primordial Tao Emperor, he had even fought against the heaven-encompassing free immortal. Though he wasn't a match, He had never felt despair. This mysterious and majestic figure gave him an unbeatable feeling. This aura was stronger than when he faced Gu An in the battle court. Feng Xian also compared the aura with Gu An's previous display, feeling a bead of sweat for Gu An. The one coming was immensely strong. Countless terrifying figures flew within the golden mist, like pets raised by the majestic figure, countless in number, surrounding the meteor where Gu An and the others were, blocking all directions. The Blood Prison Great Saint, seeing Gu An remain silent, shouted loudly, "Seniors of Ascending to Yellow Heaven, we have not offended you." He used the respectful form, showing his inner tension. He feared neither heaven nor earth, but that depended on the situation and opponent. The mysterious figure before him had the most terrifying aura he had encountered in all his years. Even as a primordial Tao Emperor, he had no will to fight. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 721. Smiting enemies with a stroke of the pen. Inconceivable. Indeed, you all haven't offended me, but I am very curious about you. The vast voice again echoed, imbued with an indescribable dominance. This condescending attitude brought great pressure to Blood Prison Great Saint, Feng Xian, and the others. The mysterious beast shadows within the Yellow Heaven Golden Rain were still hovering, and distant shouts from thousands seemed to emerge from the Yellow Heaven Golden Rain. Just as Blood Prison Great Saint was about to speak, Gu An looked up, and he immediately shut his mouth, not responding further. Everyone else also looked towards Gu An, waiting for the upcoming battle. Sinner tilted his head. His gaze toward the majestic figure in the distance filled with curiosity. Compared to the upcoming battle, he was more curious about the opponent's cultivation level. To those ascending to Yellow Heaven, take this moment before the battle starts to retreat. Cultivating for thousands and thousands of lifetimes isn't easy. Don't let your path end in vain. Gu An's voice rang out, though not as imposing as the majestic figures, but clear and understandable to everyone present. Upon these words, the shouting within the Yellow Heaven Golden Rain ceased. The entire void fell into silence. That majestic figure looked down, gazing at Gu An, seemingly astonished by his words, surprised that someone dared to address him in such a manner. "Do you know my name?" The vast voice sounded again, filled with a teasing tone. Gu An chuckled. "What, fellow Taoist wants to report your realm to pressure me?" He had just recently broken through and was eager to show his divine skills. He had already reached the Xian Qi primordial immortal realm. Even if he had concerns, such existence wouldn't be the one in front, nor within ascending to Yellow Heaven. Among the myriad causes and effects in ascending to Yellow Heaven, even the strongest beings invited here were mere ants before him. "It seems you have some backing. In that case, I'll give you a chance. Tell me, which force or divine being makes you so confident in facing ascending to Yellow Heaven?" The vast voice inquired, seemingly cautious, yet filled with ridicule. If Blood Prison Great Saint and others truly had significant backing, they wouldn't have suffered multiple serious injuries in the past hundreds of thousands of years and stayed hidden here. Ascending to Yellow Heaven was interested in primordial Tao Emperor but never acted rashly. They had observed Blood Prison Great Saint and others, confirming they didn't have a significant background like Xuanji Emperor before making a move. Moreover, judging from the seven's causes and effects, they never deduced them up to golden immortals, merely a group of lucky great world cultivators. If you still refuse to retreat, I'll assume you are hopelessly stubborn. Gu An didn't answer the vast voice's inquiry but warned again. The vast voice laughed in anger. "This universe has already been sealed by us. You can only rely on yourselves now. Though you have hidden your aura, if you have the ability to take them away, why not leave directly?" With these words, the countless shouts within the Yellow Heaven Golden Rain erupted again. The divine beast shadows accelerated, ready for battle at any moment. The golden mist surrounding Meteor began to churn violently, causing Meteor to tremble, as if it might shatter at any moment. Blood Prison Great Saint, Feng Xian, and the others grew tenser, staring at the majestic figure, unable to imagine the upcoming battle. Even if Gu An could win, it would likely be a fierce battle. They wondered if they could endure it. Gu An shook his head, having already advised. Since the opponent sought death, he could only reluctantly accept their lifespans. Since it's come to this, Let me personally teach you. The vast voice sounded again, a terrifying intensity suddenly erupted. However, before he could finish speaking, Guan suddenly raised the fate pen, drawing a stroke towards the sky like a drunken poetry immortal splashing ink across the sky. With just a stroke, the golden mist before him scattered instantly. The true forms of true dragons, phoenixes, cheilants, and other divine beasts began to appear and then turn to ashes, revealing the majestic figure's true form. A middle-aged man in a large black robe, larger than the entire meteor, his eyes like stars. Facing Guan's stroke, he had no time to react, merely widening his eyes instinctively. Boom! His majestic body exploded into ash, as the yellow heaven golden rain scattered, resembling a vast golden ocean split open, forming two magnificent golden streams in the universe, like the opening of the universe's eyes. You have successfully seized 190,872,902,371 years of life from immortal Emperor Bu Yuan, late stage of heaven-balancing golden immortal realm. You have successfully seized 280,111,904 years of life from bloodthirsty profound flood dragon, mid-stage of heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. You have successfully seized 170,892,417 years of life from Chen Tao, perfect innate golden immortal realm. You have successfully seized 31,823 years of life from Taigu Chonglin, early stage of profound Yuan free immortal realm. Countless notifications frantically popped up before Guan's eyes. The majestic figure speaking to him was precisely immortal Emperor Bu Yuan. The one who came wasn't the true form of immortal Emperor Bu Yuan, but Guan's fate pen was a supreme treasure of cause and effect, erasing the true form hidden within ascending to yellow heaven along with him. Not only immortal Emperor Bu Yuan but also thousands of great cultivators from ascending to yellow heaven guarding beyond the universe were slaughtered by him. Being enemies, Guan certainly wouldn't be merciful. The yellow heaven golden rain quickly dissipated, and the trembling meteor began to regain peace. All fell silent. Blood Prison Great Saint, Feng Xian, and the others were left dumbstruck. Even having witnessed Guan's battles before, they were deeply shaken. Sinner's expression wasn't as exaggerated, but his eyes shone brightly, fists clenched, body trembling with excitement. Guan turned, looking at Blood Prison Great Saint, smiled. The trouble is resolved. Let's go. Sinner instantly flashed to his side. Blood Prison Great Saint snapped out of it, running over, carefully asking, Master, didn't you mention this universe being surrounded by ascending to yellow heaven? What about the enemies beyond the universe? The others snapped out of it too, nervously looking at Guan. Guan waved his sleeve, taking Blood Prison Great Saint and Sinner away, but his voice still lingered, reaching Feng Xian and the 6 others. No need to worry, they are all dead. Hearing this, Feng Xian and the 6 felt incredulous once more. A cultivator raised his hand instinctively, mimicking Guan's stroke, feeling as if in a dream. SEA the Novel Fire, NE*T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Just one stroke. How high is Second Brother's master's cultivation? The yellow-robed Taoist couldn't help exclaiming. The others began to open up, expressing their excitement. Feng Xian recalled those nightmare-like experiences, his heart now filled with curiosity. What kind of existence is the supporting Tao sword venerable? Could he be an immortal god descending to the human world for leisure? Ascending to yellow heaven, colossal to the 3,000 great worlds, seemed insignificant before the legendary celestial court. Feng Xian took a deep breath, not joining the discussion with his brothers. He gazed into the distance, the 2 golden streams still lingering in the void, evidence of the previous events. He suddenly had a thought. Perhaps the Blood Prison Great Saint's choice was right. If they meet again, Blood Prison Great Saint's cultivation might very well surpass his. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 722. Yellow Heaven Emperor Ancestor Feng Xian took a deep breath, trying to clear his mind of distractions. He looked at the distant afterimages of 2 golden streams and said, All right, let's stop chatting and carefully sense the power of the primordial Tao Emperor. This is the opportunity left to us by that senior. Upon hearing this, the remaining 5 people fell silent and began to carefully perceive their surroundings. Immediately, They all became excited. Indeed, it is the destiny of the primordial Tao Emperor, so vast and overwhelming. Was that senior also a primordial Tao Emperor? Nonsense. Have you forgotten? Second brother was directed to the path of the great Tao by that senior. It's to make him walk the same path. Perhaps that senior purposely showcased the power of the primordial Tao Emperor to us, so we could gain stronger determination. That's certainly possible. One day, I will possess the same demeanor as that senior. The 5 cultivators did not say much more and soon immersed themselves in a state of enlightenment. Meanwhile, the blood prison great saint had already returned to the Taoist field of the beginningless. Having ventured out for so many years, his return brought a sense of nostalgia for what was lost. The speed at which he returned from the path of the great Tao was incredibly fast. He felt as if he had only blinked, and he had been separated from his sworn brothers forever. Even though he had achieved the status of primordial Tao Emperor and possessed might that swept across realms, he still couldn't fathom how his master could carry him and Zue across such a vast distance instantly. Master, what realm was that person in earlier? Zue followed beside Guan and asked curiously. The fight was too swift for him to catch the details, leaving him puzzled. Heaven-balancing golden immortal realm. Guan responded while glancing at his attribute panel. The ascension of over 1,000 great cultivators to yellow heaven provided him with nearly 40 trillion years of lifespan, surpassing tens of thousands of years of accumulation. At this moment, a disturbance had already occurred within the yellow heaven, as these cultivators left behind their destinies within yellow heaven. If they perished, yellow heaven would detect it no matter where they were, especially since the true body of immortal Emperor Bu Yuan died within yellow heaven. Heaven-balancing golden immortal realm, Zue murmured, memorizing this realm's name. He hadn't heard of this realm before, indicating that aside from his master, no one else in the dojo had reached this realm. The blood prison great saint snapped out of his thoughts, took a deep breath, and caught up with Guan and Zue, his heart filled with excitement. He was satisfied with his completion of the task, and he looked forward to sparring with an Xian again. This time, he was determined to win. As Guan answered Zue's questions, he transmitted a message to the other Wushiji disciples, asking them to prepare to listen to the blood prison great saint's lecture. An Xian was just a step away from becoming a primordial Tao Emperor, and the others were still pursuing this path. The blood prison great saint's lecture could inspire them. In the vast world covered in yellow sand, towering peaks stood as if they were the pillars of the world. On one of the most magnificent giant mountains, a huge palace sat atop, bathed in majestic golden rain. Inside the palace, figures sat cross-legged on stone seats, surrounded by yellow sand, arranged in an orderly fashion. At a glance, it was hard to tell how many people were present, each with an extraordinary aura. Sitting at the forefront was an elder, 10,000 feet tall, clad in a loose Taoist robe. His right hand held a finger to his chest, his white hair flowing, and 3 bright suns floating behind his head, illuminating the grand hall. At this moment, the atmosphere in the hall was very tense, as the cultivators of the yellow heaven secretly transmitted their thoughts to each other. Immortal Emperor Bu Yuan is dead, cursed by a powerful force of cause and effect. Although his true body was within yellow heaven, his avatar took people to the path of the great Tao. I need someone to explain. The elder in the Taoist robe slowly spoke, his tone cold. Sir, the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He was the master of Yellow Heaven, the Yellow Heaven Emperor ancestor. Once he spoke, someone immediately stood up and said, Ancestor Emperor, I sent my disciple to investigate the primordial Tao Emperor. I instructed him to act cautiously, but unexpectedly, he acted recklessly and offended a supreme being. If this matter brings trouble to Yellow Heaven, I am willing to take responsibility. As soon as he finished speaking, several others stood up, expressing their awareness of the matter. They all believed that the primordial Tao Emperor could change the layout of the great Tao, hence supporting immortal Emperor Bu Yuan's investigation of the primordial Tao Emperor. The Yellow Heaven Emperor ancestor squinted his eyes and asked, Primordial Tao Emperor? How does he compare to the Taoist Emperor? As he spoke, he began to deduce the primordial Tao Emperor, and was surprised to find that the primordial Tao Emperor's destiny had already spread on the path of the great Tao, and even some great worlds harbored his destiny. Just sensing this destiny, he felt its potential rivaled that of the Taoist Emperor. Immortal Emperor Bu Yuan's master began to narrate his understanding of the primordial Tao Emperor, with others adding their insights. They mentioned many names, all of whom were pursuing the primordial Tao Emperor, with the most notable being the Xuanji Emperor. The reputation of the Xuanji Emperor's prodigy was renowned on the path of the great Tao. He switched allegiance from the Taoist Emperor to the primordial Tao Emperor, causing a significant impact. After a while, when the hall quieted down, the Yellow Heaven Emperor ancestor slowly said, "Select 10,000 disciples to enter the path of the great Tao and pursue the path of the primordial Tao Emperor. Remember, it is to pursue, no other tricks. As for the matter of Immortal Emperor Bu Yuan, set it aside for now." "Yes, ancestor." Everyone in the hall responded in unison. They did not feel wronged, as Yellow Heaven had stood tall this long not by seeking revenge for every grudge. To be able to use cause and effect on the path of the great Tao to penetrate Yellow Heaven's destiny and slay Immortal Emperor Bu Yuan. No one wanted to oppose such an existence, not even Immortal Emperor Bu Yuan's master. The great Tao is long and filled with obstacles. Dying on the path is too normal. The living are what matter most. In the autumn season, Guan was watering flowers in the Taoist field of the beginningless. Besides picking medicinal herbs, he occasionally did other chores. No one expected him to pick medicinal herbs, at least all the disciples believed he simply liked rural life, possibly related to his experience before immortal cultivation. An Xian suddenly appeared beside Guan, her expression complex. She asked, "Master, is the primordial Tao Emperor really that powerful?" Yesterday she had sparred with the Blood Prison Great Saint, and the two had fought to a draw. This left her deeply shaken, as she previously believed her Immortal Emperor's eye was invincible, the most powerful divine skill of her master. Although she aimed to become a primordial Tao Emperor, in her heart, he was merely icing on the cake, not comparable to the power of the Immortal Emperor's eye. She pondered all night but couldn't figure it out. Little did she know, the Blood Prison Great Saint had locked himself away, also spending all night unable to understand why he couldn't defeat an Xian. The Blood Prison Great Saint decided never to venture out again, thinking that cultivating with his master was more promising. The primordial Tao Emperor is just a type of destiny power, varying from person to person. You don't need to antagonize it. It can make your Immortal Emperor's eye stronger. You can become the primordial Tao Emperor, but the Blood Prison Great Saint cannot cultivate the Immortal Emperor's eye. Guan casually replied. The Immortal Emperor's eye was a secret inheritance. In the entire Taoist field of the beginningless, only an Xian inherited it. Others were not even aware of the term Immortal Emperor's eye. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 723. The Fall of the Immortal Gods. After hearing her master's words, an Xian felt justified and immediately relaxed. Indeed, why should she fear the power of the primordial Tao Emperor? Why doubt the Immortal Emperor's eye? As long as she becomes the primordial Tao Emperor, the Blood Prison Great Saint could never be her match. Master, aren't you teaching the other disciples to cultivate the Immortal Emperor's eye? An Xian asked curiously. She wasn't afraid of other disciples knowing it, but she felt that if all Wuxia disciples could master such power, the future of Wuxia would be limitless. Guan replied, "The Immortal Emperor's eye brings immense trouble and is not suitable for everyone to cultivate. He has many divine skills. There's no need for every disciple to master all his Taoist techniques. Moreover, the Immortal Emperor's eye isn't something that can be easily cultivated." Back then, he passed it on to an Xian just to try it out. Unexpectedly, an Xian showed great comprehension in the Immortal Emperor's eye. Seeing Guan had made up his mind, an Xian stopped dwelling on the issue. She asked several questions about the primordial Tao Emperor and left satisfied after getting the answers. Guan continued to stroll in the medicine garden. Even if no one was watching him, he needed to maintain such habits. Since Wuxia Dojo became lively after Sin, and now with the return of the Blood Prison Great Saint, life could be described as chaotic. The third-generation disciples were all curious about the experiences of the Blood Prison Great Saint, and the Blood Prison Great Saint also wanted to share, eventually forming a bond with the third-generation disciples. Spring passed and autumn came. 500 years flew by quickly. On this day, In a Chenkuan sect tavern, Guan and the unbeaten emperor ancestor were drinking together. He planned to let the unbeaten emperor ancestor take back the 20 unbeaten emperor clan prodigies. He had called them earlier to help Chenkuan sect establish its foothold. Now Chenkuan sect was nearing its end and no longer needed them. The unbeaten emperor ancestor asked, "Master, why not let them stay and establish a sect? If you need them in the future, you can command them any time." Guan laughed and asked, "Haven't your unbeaten emperor clan been facing troubles recently? Don't you need their power?" The unbeaten emperor ancestor was secretly alarmed. Guan could see the situation in the primordial emperor domain even though he stayed in the celestial spirit great world. "Master, you jest. If the unbeaten emperor clan needs these juniors' power to overcome difficulties, we wouldn't be worthy of the emperor clan title." The unbeaten emperor ancestor shook his head and laughed. Guan understood the unbeaten emperor ancestor's thoughts. This arrangement was to strengthen their relationship and to leave seeds behind. The unbeaten emperor clan had left their bloodlines in all 3,000 great worlds as a precaution. Guan thought for a while and said, "Fine, let them stay in the celestial spirit great world. They can develop their own sect, even compete for dominance, but if they commit evil and threaten the great world itself, I won't allow them to act recklessly." The unbeaten emperor ancestor was overjoyed upon hearing this and immediately raised his cup to thank Guan Gu and turned his head to look at the street outside. The bustling Chenkuan sect disciples walked hurriedly, keeping their distance from each other. The whole street lost its usual liveliness, filled with a tense atmosphere. The unbeaten emperor ancestor also turned his head to look, sighing, "Prosperity and decline are also part of reincarnation. Our emperor clan has experienced it too, even faced near extinction several times." Guan chuckled softly. "Indeed, it's all reincarnation. When you come next time, you won't see the current scenery." The unbeaten emperor ancestor thought deeply about Guan's words, feeling there was more to it. Then, Guan continued drinking with him, exchanging 3,000 great worlds intelligence. About the competition for the Son of Heaven, Guan had already informed the unbeaten emperor ancestor. The unbeaten emperor ancestor had been paying attention over the years. The primordial emperor domain does not belong to the 3,000 great worlds. Often immortal gods descend into the domain, and the unbeaten emperor ancestor learned through his connections that there was indeed a competition for the Son of Heaven. Who these two sons of heaven were, could not be determined for now, but the unbeaten emperor clan knew which planes and sects were involved. Even if it was an intricate conspiracy, destined to be wiped out by Tsongtian, some still chose to enter the fray. Guan patiently listened, driven mainly by curiosity. When it involved the celestial court, he couldn't completely foresee the fate, but he could already see the chaos of the 3,000 great worlds in the future. That calamity would expose many hidden great powers, even causing the fall of immortal gods. When he saw the scene of immortal gods falling, it meant he had the qualification to observe the cause and effect of the celestial court. As his cultivation level grew stronger, the mysterious veil of the celestial court would gradually be lifted in his eyes. The two talked for a long time, until dusk, then the unbeaten emperor ancestor bid farewell. He had to instruct those 20 juniors first. Guan leisurely walked towards the street. Walking along, he encountered someone, none other than Li Ya's sister Li Xuanyu. Since discovering Guan near Chenkuan sect, Li Xuanyu had stayed in the Chenkuan sect and was now considered part of its high echelon. Their meeting on the street was no coincidence. Guan had calculated she would walk this street. Li Xuanyu saw him without surprise. Their frequent encounters over the long years made her accustomed. Each time they met, Guan would provide her with some opportunities or guidance. After numerous encounters, she realized these coincidences were Guan's deliberate intentions. "Are you about to reveal Chenkuan sect's future to me?" Li Xuanyu asked curiously as she approached Guan. In recent centuries, the internal strife of Chenkuan sect escalated. Yuan Luo acted domineeringly, offending many people. Some rose while others fell. Upon confirming Yuan Luo's absence of connection to Wuxia, opponents began to unite. Li Xuanyu had already seen signs of internal turmoil, but with Wuxia nearby, she remained unafraid. Like the old days in the supreme sect, regardless of the storm, the supporting Dao Sword Venerable always emerged to fortify and settle the turmoil. Chenkuan sect is about to disperse. Are you planning to return to the Tai Tsong dynasty or join the Wuxia sect? Of course, you can have other choices and prepare in advance. Guan spoke. He and Li Xuanyu had congenial conversations. Back then, when he wasn't strong enough, Li Xuanyu introduced him to managing cave mansions, providing him more lifespan channels. Perhaps these events had faded from Li Xuanyu's memory, but he remembered them. Throughout his journey, though lacking many enemies, few people actively helped him before he demonstrated his strength. Guan could see through the essence of the red dust, valuing those acts of kindness. Li Xuanyu asked, "Can I really join Wuxia?" She hesitated, feeling undeserving as she believed she couldn't help Guan much. Seeing her expression, Guan suddenly had an idea. What if he cultivated Li Xuanyu to be stronger than Li Ya? What would Li Ya's reaction be if he got defeated by his sister in combat? Sir than a fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan found it interesting. Li Ya and Li Xuanyu were siblings. Their sparring would not harm their relationship. Guan wanted to see Li Ya's frustrated and surprised expression. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 724. Surpassing the Celestial God. Of course you can. You don't need to overthink it, but there's one thing you must understand. Once you join Wuxia, it's not easy to leave. To attain the Tao, you must endure long monotonous years. Guan smiled at Li Xuanyu. If Li Xuanyu didn't want to join Wuxia, he wouldn't force her. Li Xuanyu nodded and said, "I understand. Following you will undoubtedly grant me power beyond all beings. If left unchecked, it could become a catastrophe for the human world. Freedom and power, one must choose between the two." Is that how you understand it? That's not entirely wrong. In truth, the reason Guan constrained his disciples was simply because they were too weak. Going out too early would likely bring troubles beyond their ability to resolve. He didn't want to always be the one cleaning up after them. You came to invite me personally. How could I refuse? Could you give me some time to handle matters within my sect? Li Xuanyu looked at Guan and spoke softly. People around them couldn't hear their conversation, nor did anyone look their way. This wasn't the first time Li Xuanyu noticed this. Each time it happened, she felt a sense of shock and incredulity. Guan had no objections. They exchanged a few more words before passing by each other. At the same time, on the other side of the human world, in a mountain forest, there was a wooden house where Li Xianyu, who had grown up, was carving a wooden sword with a small knife. He wore white clothes, a black shoulder sleeve draped over his right shoulder, and his hair was tied behind his head with a grass rope. His defined features were filled with spirit. Clang! The door of the wooden house was pushed open. An elder in a green robe walked out, his face looking rather displeased. He didn't glance at Li Xianyu as he passed by, transforming into a white light that disappeared at the edge of the celestial vault. Li Xianyu didn't mind and continued carving the wooden sword in his hand. Li Ya, dressed in black, walked out from the house, stretching lazily in the sunlight. He sighed and said, "Disciple, why are there so many ambitious people in this world? The Tao court is a lesson from the past. Trying to unify the world is incredibly difficult." Li Xianyu, with his back to Li Ya, responded, "Tao court didn't fail. They dominated for many years. It was they who chose to dissolve. The major sects in the world might just be renamed Tao court cultivators. Even with the fall of Tao court, there are still Enchanting and the immortal court. They continue to enjoy the world's resources." Li Ya glared at Li Xianyu and grumbled, "Brat, do you expect me to lower myself to those sects and become their lackey? Of course not. If you must join an immortal cultivation sect, it should be Wuxia. You should follow Master Gu," Li Xianyu replied without turning his head. Ever since he witnessed Master Gu's prowess, he always wanted to join Wuxia. Unfortunately, Li Ya would not go. He understood his master's pride. Men, after all, tend to be proud. If Master Gu were a generation above him, it wouldn't be such a problem, but they were peers. Li Ya snorted, "Wuxia is undoubtedly an excellent place. Do you think I don't know that? You have no idea what's on your master's mind." "Indeed I don't. I only know that without me accompanying you, who knows when you might get seriously injured again." Nonsense. Last time was an accident. Hee hee, let's say it was an accident. Without me carrying you, you would have already been reincarnated. Li Xianyu's words nearly drove Leah mad. This kid was becoming more and more disrespectful. Leah regretted acting impulsively back then. He hadn't figured out his opponent's background before making a move. He wasn't afraid, just that head-lost face in front of his disciple, making him uncomfortable. Stop carving that wooden sword. Come, I'll take you to the sword sect for a visit. Don't you want a divine sword? I'll fulfill your wish. Leah stood with his hands on his hips, looking quite pleased with himself. Upon hearing this, Li Xianyu immediately stood up, looking at Leah with joy. Leah enjoyed this look. This was the attitude a disciple should have. The sword sect's reputation now shakes the heavens. Chen Chuan of the sword sect is the #1 sword cultivator in the world. According to you, he counts as my senior brother. Can I ask him for some guidance? Li Xianyu flashed to Li Ya's front and asked expectantly. Li Ya's eyes widened in anger. Is his sword Dao better than mine? You brat, are you trying to betray me? Of course not. I just want to gather the strengths of all sects to create my own sword Dao, Li Xianyu said earnestly. In truth, he believed that Leah wasn't a match for Chen Chuan. Since Chen Chuan had stepped into the free immortal realm, he had never been defeated. In fact, since his rise to fame, he had never lost a battle, unlike his master, whom he had seen lose with his own eyes. Every time he thought of his master, bloodied and on the brink of death, he felt a heartache. Once, Leah was an invincible existence in his mind. Even Master Gu was not considered a match for him. His master's defeat shattered a belief in him. Of course, he wouldn't reveal these thoughts, afraid of hurting Li Ya's feelings. He still respected Li Ya, for Li Ya was the most chivalrous person he had ever seen. Li Ya had saved many suffering people like him, never seeking anything in return. Li Ya's last injury was also because he couldn't stand seeing the strong oppress the weak. Just as well, the sword sect is holding the world's #1 sword assembly. I'll challenge him, so you can see who's stronger, Leah snorted, his eyes brimming with fighting spirit. Chen Chuan's fame was immense. Wherever he went, he heard sword cultivators bring up this name, sparking his curiosity. It was one thing to be unable to defeat Gu En, but could he not even defeat Gu An's disciple? The world was vast, filled with countless great powers. As a master, he needed to remind his nephew about this. Li Xianyu opened his mouth, wanting to refuse, but in the end, he swallowed his words. Forget it. With Master Gu's influence, Chen Chuan wouldn't harm his master. Above the sea of clouds, figures clad in silver armor, radiating the strong light of the heavenly Tao, stood like mountains. Most of their faces were filled with excitement. Zhang Buku and Su Yu were among them, feeling their celestial Tao destiny as their emotions remained stirred. Is this the power of the immortal gods? Truly powerful. Zhang Buku looked at his own hands and said softly. Su Yu glanced at him and said, This is just the beginning. We have only initially obtained the celestial court's destiny. Our cultivation levels will grow rapidly from here, eventually reaching the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm. If you seize the opportunity well and advance to the golden immortal Tao fruit realm, you will become a true celestial god. Heavenly soldiers aren't qualified to call themselves immortal gods yet. Upon hearing this, Zhang Buku looked up at the celestial vault. There was a boundless mass of golden clouds, and above the clouds, the celestial calming god looked down at them as if a ruler gazing upon his creations. Looking at the celestial calming god, Zhang Buku recalled the humiliating defeat he experienced on the path of the great Tao. So-called celestial gods were nothing special. CTH Novel Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. His goal was to surpass celestial gods. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 725. The Battle of Wushi. Zhang Buku was still thinking about the future, and other heavenly soldiers were also yearning for it. They had endured the trials of reincarnation and finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Just as they were immersing in the powerful destiny brought by the heavenly Tao, The overwhelming pressure of the celestial calming god suddenly erupted, suppressing the 100,000 heavenly soldiers. All heavenly soldiers looked up, their smiles fading from their faces. You have endured countless hardships and finally become true heavenly soldiers. Now, I will tell you a piece of good news. The celestial calming god's voice echoed above the sea of clouds, making all the heavenly soldiers tense. Good news? They didn't believe it. Instinctively, they thought there would be another trial. Some heavenly soldiers even showed signs of resentment. Why is the path to immortality so difficult? 2 sons of heaven will use the 3,000 great worlds as a chessboard to engage in a grand game. You will follow me to support one of the sons of heaven. The sun is the child of the celestial emperor. This game will involve many immortal gods. If the sun we support wins, you will all benefit, and some of you may even directly become celestial gods. This is a rare opportunity, one that I have never encountered. The celestial calming god's words reached the ears of the 100,000 heavenly soldiers, making them fantasize wildly, and some even began to whisper among themselves. A contest between the sons of heaven. It starts again, truly relentless, Suyu marveled. Zhang Buku glanced at him and asked in confusion, You even know about the contest between the sons of heaven? Suyu replied, I heard about it from a senior. The contest between the sons of heaven always uses the 3,000 great worlds as a chessboard because the 3,000 great worlds have no deep foundation. Song Tian can easily restore them. Many sons of heaven, to prove they are more suitable to be the celestial emperor, will rally support and engage in a battle that attracts the attention of the celestial court. Zhang Buku asked in surprise, Can the position of celestial emperor be hereditary? In his view, the celestial emperor was the strongest among the immortal gods. How could the position of celestial emperor be passed down? Moreover, the reason human imperial power is passed down is because emperors die. But the celestial emperor is the most powerful immortal god. How could he die? Who knows? Maybe the celestial emperor is just toying with them. But there are always some sons of heaven who believe it, Suyu responded. Zhang Buku felt strange emotions. He felt as if Suyu was mocking the celestial emperor. Standing on the colorful clouds, the celestial calming god gave Suyu a deep look, then scanned the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and said, The 3,000 great worlds will be divided into 2, led by celestial gods. Before the grand contest begins, the strength of both camps will be equal, overseen by high-ranking immortal gods. This is a rare fairness. You all have a 50% chance of winning. The rest depends on your efforts. His voice was like heavenly thunder, deafening. A heavenly soldier couldn't help but ask, If we lose, what will happen to us? Sar the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. With this question, many heavenly soldiers immediately echoed, questioning the celestial calming god. Having finally become heavenly soldiers, they had to face another trial. Who could bear it? If we lose, I will be punished along with you. Don't worry, your celestial court destiny won't dissipate. You just need to make amends. With the destiny of the celestial court, you all are immortal and indestructible beings. The celestial calming god's answer calmed the heavenly soldiers' unease. Zhang Buku noticed that Suyu seemed to be mocking the celestial calming god. Could heavenly soldiers die too? Zhang Buku was deeply worried. He wasn't afraid for his own safety but was concerned about the calamity that could cause even heavenly soldiers to fall. How terrifying would that be for all living beings in the Great Thousand Worlds? He was still concerned about the celestial spirit Great World and those old acquaintances. Before this grand contest begins, I will personally preach to you, so you can quickly improve your cultivation level. Strive to reach the heaven-encompassing free immortal realm before the grand contest. The celestial calming god's voice echoed again, and this statement excited the heavenly soldiers. In any case, being able to quickly improve their cultivation level was an immediate benefit. Time flew like an arrow. 300 years passed swiftly, and the Chenkuan sect eventually erupted into internal strife, causing the 9 spirit continents people to suffer. Guan dispatched an Xian to expel all cultivators of the Chenkuan sect. In the courtyard, Guan was planting medicinal herbs. Li Xuanyu followed behind him, curiously asking, Can an Xian alone drive out the Chenkuan sect? The current Chenkuan sect is not simple. Not only Li Xuanyu, But I Ching Shan and 4 others had also moved into the Taoist field of the beginningless, each establishing their cave mansions. Once they arrived at the Taoist field of the beginningless, Li Xuanyu and I Ching Shan were all surprised. They didn't expect that the Taoist field of the beginningless harbored so many powerful figures and talents. Not to mention the strength of Blood Prison Great Saint, LV Xian, the Celestial Demon Child, and others. The talent of the third-generation disciples was visible to the naked eye. Even in the Chen Kuan sect, they would stand out. Before Guan could answer, a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared on the horizon, like a celestial curtain, attracting Li Xuanyu's attention. Her expression changed slightly. She sensed Nzin's presence and an extremely domineering power. Her abilities are indeed not enough, but she has a Tao treasure refined by me. Guan casually replied. Tomorrow he could expand the Taoist field, extending its range to cover the entire 9-spirit continent. In the future, the people of the 9-spirit continent would also benefit. With the rich spiritual energy and Tao intent within the Taoist field, even those who don't cultivate would become stronger over time. Tao treasure. Li Xuanyu's heart was filled with curiosity. She had heard of Tao treasures. Many years ago, the disciples of Wuxia had emerged and saved all living beings. The power of the Tao treasures became renowned throughout the world. But couldn't Xin alone expel the entire Chen Kuan sect with just one Tao treasure? Suddenly, she felt an extremely terrifying and chilling aura, as if it would pierce through the celestial vault. She recalled Yuan Luo's face in her mind. She could confirm that this powerful aura came from Yuan Luo, though she didn't expect Yuan Luo to be this powerful. Ancestor! A female voice came, and Shangguan Xiener quickly ran over. Guan immediately said to Li Xuanyu, Senior Sister Li, you don't need to worry. Go back and cultivate. Li Xuanyu didn't think much, bowed, and left immediately. Shangguan Xiener came before Guan, mysteriously pulling out a book and said, Ancestor, this is my painstaking work, it will definitely surprise you. Guan glared at her, took the book from her hand and sternly said, Can't you focus on your cultivation? Shangguan Xiener giggled. I am cultivating diligently. Just take a look first. I'll look at it later. Guan stuffed the book into his robe and continued planting. Shangguan Xiener's eyes rolled, and she sidled up to Guan, saying, Ancestor, if you are satisfied with it, could you teach me a divine skill? I also want to compete for the rankings of the third-generation disciples. Within Wuxia, there was always competition, from the second-generation disciples to the third. Every 1,000 years, a comparison was made, and currently, Nzizai was still the strongest among the third-generation disciples, while Shangguan Xiener was ranked among the last 3. Why the sudden desire to cultivate divine skills? Guan didn't immediately agree but asked instead. Shangguan Xiener pouted. Aren't I listening to your advice to cultivate diligently? Guan smiled and said, You want to go out and establish a sect? Shangguan Xiener hurriedly explained, Ancestor, I'm not going out immediately, but in the future. I still want to serve you for thousands of years. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 726. World Gate of 10,000 Realms twilight approached. After an Xian returned, Guan ceased instructing Shangguan Xiener in her divine skills and sent her away. Guan and an Xian stood shoulder to shoulder at the edge of the cliff, gazing into the distance. An Xian softly said, Master, that Yuan Luo will probably become a great calamity for the world. Although I expelled him, I could feel his strength and hatred. He harbors an endless supply of terrifying power within him. What do you wish your master to do? Kill him? Guan retorted. Guan had witnessed the battle between Yuan Luo and an Xian. If not for Yuan Luo borrowing the origin power, he would have been no match for an Xian. Defeated this time, Yuan Luo would be deeply agitated and continuously awaken the origin consciousness until he became a true Chaos Grudge Luo. Yuan Luo's life had its share of sins, yet which immortal cultivator's hands are not stained with blood? He also had his own merits. Whether he is good or bad depends on the perspective. An Xian shook her head and said, Why would I think like that? How could I outright ask you to kill him? What I want is for you to capture him. I will discipline him and help him let go of his obsessions. I fear he will drag the Chenkuan sect into an abyss of eternal damnation. She knew very well the depths of the waters in the celestial spirit great world. If things went too far, it wouldn't just be Guen. Even the celestial gods could intervene, and Yuan Luo wouldn't be able to contend with them. Yuan Luo sought to dominate the world with extreme methods and had a fierce and combative style. He did not tolerate any betrayal, causing the Chenkuan sect disciples to be unable to leave the sect. If they tried to flee, they would be pursued and killed. Over time, an Xian felt the consequences would be dire. She had coexisted with the Chenkuan sect for millions of years and had developed feelings for it. She didn't want the Chenkuan sect to meet a tragic end. Subduing Yuan Luo could bring a dignified close to the sect, and perhaps with a new sect hierarch, the Chenkuan sect could continue its legacy. No need for that. These trials are part of the Chenkuan sect's fate. They have received too much of our protection and do not need to be sheltered through to the end. Instead, you should think about how to treat the continent's all living beings in the future. Guen replied, quietly choosing to activate the Lifespan Dojo. Please select the range of your dojo to be established. A prompt appeared, and Guen expanded his mind to cover the entire 9-spirit continent. 100 billion years of lifespan is required. Do you wish to continue? 100 billion years of lifespan. Previously, establishing the dojo required 5 billion years of lifespan. The 9-spirit continents area was over 200 times larger than the current dojo. To Guen, this cost was worth it. Ia the Oval Fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He chose to continue without hesitation. In an instant, nature's spiritual energy suddenly halted. An Xian noticed this and swallowed her prepared words, frowning as she looked around. This was the dojo. How could something unexpected happen? An Xian looked at Guen, who was smiling, and her anxiety completely eased. Master, what is going on? An Xian curiously asked. Guen smiled and said, I have expanded the dojo to cover the entire continent. In the future, your range of free movement will be even greater. An Xian pursued, does this mean that all living beings on the continent will be able to enjoy the spiritual energy and Tao intent of the dojo? Guen had previously mentioned he would expand the dojo. At that time, she thought it was just an expansion of the range and didn't expect the Tao intent and dense spiritual energy to extend as well. Such immense merit. An Xian could already imagine the future prosperity of the 9-spirit continent. She even began to envision the glory of Wushi's expansion. The current Wuxia had too few people. The spiritual energy of nature only halted for a few brief moments. Soon, the earth began to tremble, and vast spiritual energy gushed forth from deep underground, causing all living beings on the continent to feel tense. Even many great cultivators residing in seclusion in the mountains were alarmed and fled. The seas at the edge of the continent began to fog up, gradually shrouding the continent. The twilight became even more melancholic. Years flew by, and 200,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. The 9-spirit continent had now become a mysterious legend. Over the long years, some sects had tried to explore it, but were repelled by a mysterious force. Occasionally, some cultivators inadvertently intruded but were soon escorted out. These experiences, however, became unforgettable for them and birthed numerous legends about the Wushishi continent, symbolizing hope and representing a paradise, even suggesting the meaning of an immortal land. Crossing the vast fog over the ocean and entering the 9-spirit continent, the magnificent landscape of mountains and rivers unfolded like a painting, with demon birds soaring in the sky. Everywhere one looked, cultivators could be seen flying. Majestic and bustling cities were scattered across the continent, each region forming its own world. Yet, the original area of the Taoist field of the beginningless remained a forbidden ground where other beings were not permitted to trespass. In the courtyard, Guen stood in front of the artifact refining cauldron, manipulating the Tai Ching true fire. Shen Zhen sat nearby, practicing her skills, while an Xian stood behind Guen, reporting the current situation. The number of living beings is increasing. At this rate, trouble will eventually arise. We can't simply expel some of them, as they are all related. An Xian spoke softly, frowning slightly. The human world must not be without a ruler. The Emperor of the Nine-Spirit Continent would offer tribute to the beginningless. Currently, the third-generation disciple in Zazai was responsible for liaising with imperial authority. And Zazai's cave mansion was established in the imperial city to serve as a warning to the imperial power. Thus, despite the passing of 200,000 years, the Nine-Spirit Continent had not fallen into chaos. Guan replied, "No need to worry. In a few days, I will establish the World Gate, allowing them to freely travel and explore. Their life and death will be their own responsibility." The World Gate? Can it connect to the myriad worlds? An Exian asked curiously. Yes, it is a Tao treasure. I will use destiny as the screening criterion to prevent external beings from infiltrating through this gate. Guan's lips curved upward. The World Gate was his proudest creation in recent years. It could connect to the 3,000 great worlds and even some special realms. It was also a formidable Tao treasure, almost impossible for even a Tao Extreme Daluo Immortal to destroy. Master, aren't you afraid of exposing the beginningless? An Exian asked with a smile. Since when has your master ever feared? Guan responded with a hard tone. Now, he indeed had some confidence. Moreover, the beginningless had no intention or capability of overthrowing the celestial court. What was there to fear? The master and disciple chatted for a while. Then an Exian went to summon the third-generation disciples to give a lecture. Having become the primordial Tao Emperor and as the second-generation disciple, she always kept a close watch on the cultivation progress of the third-generation disciples. She hoped that every disciple would possess great strength and not disgrace the wuxia or their master. After an Exian left, Shenzhen opened her eyes and looked at Guan. Although I have not yet reached the level of primordial Tao Emperor, I am seeing more and more of the scenes regarding that disaster. She was referring to the great contention for the Son of Heaven, which was no secret within the wuxia. Oh, what scenes have you seen this time? Guan casually asked. He could also see the cause and effect of the great contention for the Son of Heaven, with the figures of numerous immortal gods already appearing in his vision. Zhang Buku, Tian Hao, and Zhu Shi would all be involved, seizing the opportunity to rise during this catastrophe. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 728. Great Immortal Divine Essence. Shenyuan Human Venerable. After wandering the human world for half a day, Guan went to the Taizong dynasty as a guest. Li Xiandao still sat firmly on the emperor's throne. In the hearts of the people of the Taizong dynasty, he already represented Songtian, and no one dared to challenge his authority. Perhaps due to his friendship with Guan, Li Xiandao had always been considerate and loving towards his people. Although there were internal conflicts within the Taizong dynasty, the general populace remained loyal to him. Guan could hear people's inner voices and see through anyone's essence. Yet, he never judged a person's worth based on their inner thoughts. Everyone's heart has a dark side. As long as Li Xiandao did not commit any great evil, Guan could tolerate it. Recently, Li Xiandao had his own troubles, not for the affairs of the Taizong dynasty, but for his own cultivation. He too had reached the Zizai immortal realm and needed to undergo the reincarnation tribulation to advance further. However, this tribulation was not a matter of a day or two. Once he embarked on reincarnation, the world would certainly be thrown into chaos. His princes numbered over 100,000, and many had already gained great notoriety. If he disappeared, it would surely cause significant trouble. To this, Guan could only guide him in pursuing the path of the primordial Tao Emperor. Li Xiandao had previously obtained the chance of the primordial Tao Emperor by accident but gave it up due to insufficient comprehension. Now, hearing Guan personally say that the path of the primordial Tao Emperor was the correct one, he had no choice but to reassess this opportunity. Guan only guided and did not go all out to assist Li Xiandao. He had already helped enough. Without him, Li Xiandao would not have reached where he was today. If Li Xiandao could not hold on to imperial power, it meant it was destined to be given up. Guan's days were so simple. Planting and harvesting, playing musical instruments, practicing calligraphy, painting, and occasionally visiting old friends. Though plain, he did not find it tedious and fully enjoyed this kind of life. 10 years passed by in the blink of an eye. It was near noon on this particular day. And Zizai led a man up the mountain toward Gu An's courtyard. Along the way, third-generation disciples Lu Zidao and Li Qing happened to be descending. Upon seeing Zizai, the two immediately greeted him. And Zizai nodded without saying much and continued up the mountain with his companion. Lu Zidao and Li Qing fixed their gaze on the person behind Zizai. They had never seen him before, but his profound aura indicated he was no ordinary being. After a while, Zizai led the man into the courtyard and respectfully bowed to Gu and was lying on a rocking chair reading a book. He spoke softly. "You may leave." And Zizai immediately retreated. Shan Zhan, who was meditating in front of the artifact refining cauldron, turned his head and gazed at Tai Immortal Monarch. Standing beside Guan, Tai Immortal Monarch had reverted to his true form. The Dharma aspect behind his head swayed slightly, exuding the demeanor of an immortal god. Guan flipped over, tucked the book into his robe, and smiled at Tai Immortal Monarch. He asked, "How about it? Do you still think about your grandson?" Tai Immortal Monarch's expression was indifferent, vastly different from the old farmer he appeared as 10 years ago. It was impossible to associate the two. Having gone through so many lifetimes, how could I hold on to attachments in each one? Tai Immortal Monarch replied. He paused and said, "Before becoming an immortal monarch, I had already experienced countless reincarnations. If one intends to erase my divine nature through reincarnation, it is impossible, not even I can change it." Guan stood up, turned his head towards the courtyard entrance, and motioned for Tai Immortal Monarch to follow. Tai Immortal Monarch said nothing and followed Guan. They did not walk far, merely to the cliff outside the courtyard. Guan looked at the rainbow between the distant mountains and said, "You came to this world because you favored the Son of Heaven reincarnated here, right? Now, with the 3,000 great worlds about to face a struggle among the sons of heaven, yet the one you chose is still caught in the red dust. What do you think about this? A struggle among sons of heaven?" Tai Immortal Monarch raised his eyebrows, unsurprised, and sneered. Those two sons of heaven indeed couldn't suppress their ambitions. Guan turned to him, waiting for him to continue. Those two sons of heaven are the great immortal divine Yuan and Shen Yuan human venerable. Their cultivation levels are not among the best, but their mothers are favored by the celestial emperor. Lacking in talent, they thought to play a game with the 3,000 great worlds. They are overconfident. In my view, neither stands a chance. Tai Immortal Monarch snorted coldly, clearly holding those two sons of heaven in disdain. Guan asked with a smile, "Then what do you think of the Son of Heaven you wish to support? Does he have hope of becoming the celestial emperor?" Tai Immortal Monarch responded, "No Son of Heaven can become the celestial emperor. The reason I chose him is that I believe he will eventually return to the celestial court and be favored by his majesty. Eventually, he will become the war god of the celestial court. This is my opportunity. If that's the case, then stay in this world. I will pave the way for you in the future." As he spoke, Guan took off a string of wooden tokens from his waist, the transformed forms of the 72 immortals of Jin Dong, and tossed them to Tai Immortal Monarch. Tai Immortal Monarch looked at Guan with deep meaning in his eyes and cautiously asked, "Do you intend to enter the celestial court, or do you have other plans?" Guan was extremely powerful and of mysterious origins, so he had to be cautious. Even if he offended Guan, he could rely on the celestial court's destiny to remain immortal. But if Guan intended to oppose the celestial court, it would cost him his life. Immortal gods might compete for their own interests, but when it came to the safety of the celestial court, they would all stand united. This was one of the functions of the celestial Tao destiny. Rest assured, I have no intention of opposing the celestial court. Tian Hao and I merely have a coincidental connection. During your reincarnation, his immortal god mentor, Eternal Life Venerable, came and offered me a chance to ascend to immortality, which I gave to another of my disciples. Of course, you can leave now if you wish. It's entirely up to you. Guan said with a smile. With Yang Jian's ascension to immortality, his conflict with the celestial court was less significant. Once Tai Immortal Monarch returned and understood the situation, he would probably not dare to oppose him further. Of course, his confidence also came from his own cultivation level. Though he couldn't say he was invincible, there weren't many in the celestial court who were stronger than him. Tai Immortal Monarch smiled bitterly upon hearing this. He believed Guan's words and merely thought his previous actions were too obsessive, or more accurately, too arrogant. I am willing to stay, and the 72 immortals of Jindong will remain as well to see what we can leave behind for this human world. Tai Immortal Monarch said, not out of sudden kindness but knowing that with a terrifying great power like Guan here, the celestial spirit great world was bound to transcend the 3,000 great worlds and become a higher plane. He was willing to add glory to this and show goodwill to Guan and did not reject this. Looking ahead at the mountains and rivers, he smiled and said, "Look, is this human world scenery really so inferior to the heavens?" Tai Immortal Monarch looked into the distance and replied, "Heaven and earth are the most perfect creations of the great Tao, each possessing its own beauty. But immortal gods live too long, and everything eventually loses its novelty. It's not just immortal gods. Every Taoist feels the same. Don't you think so?" S.E.A. The Oval Fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Without turning back, Guan looked at the lake and said, "My attitude has never changed, only his thoughts have become chaotic." Li Xianyu relaxed, always feeling that Guan cared about his master. But his master had overthought things and was too concerned with face. If his master could set aside his pride and follow Master Uncle in cultivation, he would undoubtedly become the greatest sword cultivator in the world. "Xianyu, we've met twice now. You can call me Master Uncle, and I acknowledge you. I can sense the bond between you and your master, more like father and son than master and disciple. Although I don't think you'll abandon him, I still want to ask you to take good care of him," Guan said, turning to Li Xianyu with a grateful smile. Li Xianyu nodded solemnly, saying, "I will. Without my master, I would have died long ago. I will never abandon him in my life. Your master is combative and proud, but his chivalrous spirit is rare in the world. Frankly, I envy his life, carefree and free. Have you not realized he's always maintained his true self?" Guan's words made Li Xianyu think deeply. He realized that despite recent changes before his obsession, his master was always carefree and somewhat unorthodox, just as he had been in his childhood. "Perhaps one day, your master will surpass everyone. Do not tell him this, as it is a heavenly secret I'm revealing to you." Saw the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Guan's mysterious smile made Li Xianyu's imagination run wild. He sensed that Guan implied his master would become his greatest fortune and support. However, Li Xianyu couldn't help but ask, "Will he surpass you?" He knew his master had always wanted to surpass his master uncle, which was why he never sought his help. Faced with this inquiry, Guan simply smiled and did not answer. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. The struggle for the Son of Heaven is unstoppable. It is both a crisis and an opportunity. I know why you have come. Since the struggle for the Son of Heaven is about to begin, I will support you. But you need to promise me one thing. Upon hearing this, Zhu Shi immediately asked, "What is it?" The senior in the pavilion was no ordinary person. He was once the master of the divine court and had lived for an untold number of years. Disapproving of the divine court and immortal gods' actions, he left the divine court. Meeting him was a stroke of fate for Zhu Shi. Although the senior had never really helped her directly, he had provided much intelligence, which allowed her to avoid many troubles. If the Son of Heaven you support wins, you cannot compete for the title of immortal god. The ancient voice said slowly. Zhu Shi felt puzzled and asked, If we do not compete for the title of immortal god, why should we support the Son of Heaven? Do you have any other options? Zhu Shi fell silent. The Star Monarch personally came. She and the Holy Court probably had no choice but to comply. I have never experienced the struggle for the Son of Heaven, but I once saw some records in a certain ruin on the path of the Great Tao. The struggle for the Son of Heaven has no true winner, especially for all living beings. Getting too close to immortal gods during such a catastrophe is not a good thing. I do not want the future master of heaven and earth to lead Tai Wei to its doom. You should remember the war 1,000,000 years ago. The divine court, as powerful as it was, could not stand against a single individual, just as the great Tao itself. The 3,000 great worlds seem vast and boundless, but in the eyes of the immortal gods, they might be of little significance. The words of the ancient voice made Zhu Zai's face turn grim. She had long felt the arrogance of the immortal gods. The other's words made her sense a great crisis. Upon confirming that the struggle for the Son of Heaven was real, she had also developed an ambition to become an immortal god. If she felt this way, what of others? Once the struggle for the Son of Heaven begins, and the immortal gods promise ascension, her control over the Holy Court would be difficult to maintain. Zhu Shi stood before the door, contemplating for a long time. She took a deep breath and said, "Senior, I promise you." Clang! The door opened, and a token flew toward Zhu Shi. It was a green jade token, emitting a golden light, rotating autonomously. Take this token to the ancient god Shengzhou and meet that supreme. He will know what to do. Upon hearing this, Zhu Zai's face showed joy. She knew what the supreme of ancient god Shengzhou represented. Not only was the supreme's divine skills vast, but his disciples were also innumerable and widespread throughout the world. With his support, the Holy Court would undoubtedly be able to completely control the Tai Wei Great World. Thank you, Senior. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Guan, while observing the outer heaven, continued painting, each stroke imbued with Tao intent, making everything in the painting appear vivid, with the plants and flowers seeming to sway in the wind, as if they genuinely existed. The blood prison great saint approached Guan with a fawning smile, saying, "Master, the talents from the 9 spirit continent are increasing. Many people are seeking us out. When do you think we can open the gates of Wuxia?" Guan replied nonchalantly, "Why? Do you also wish to take in disciples?" "Not me. I'm your mount. How can I take in disciples? It would mess up the generational hierarchy in the future, creating significant trouble. I just feel that Wuxia should expand, especially since the 9 spirit continent has developed a solid foundation over these years." The blood prison great saint laughed. The stronger Wuxia became, the more he would benefit. Thinking of numerous Wuxia disciples admiring him made him excited. He even had bigger ambitions. He aspired to become the sole mount of the Celestial Emperor. Guan said softly, "Once this gate is opened, it will be like a surging river that cannot be stopped." "Master, why block it? If you're afraid of trouble, you can let an Xin and us manage it. If you're worried about the younger generations causing chaos, you can establish strict sect rules," the blood prison great saint asked, puzzled. He never considered that Guan was wary of the Celestial Court. In his heart, Guan was the strongest, and Wuxi's distance from the Celestial Court was unfathomable. Besides, there were many sects more powerful than Wuxia in the world, yet they hadn't faced divine retribution. Guan was also pondering over problems. Though he always said he didn't want to establish a force, in reality, he continuously took steps towards it. Moreover, he couldn't always shield his disciples. It was time for them to stand on their own. Seeing Guan stay silent, the blood prison great saint stopped speaking and gazed at his painting. "This painting!" The blood prison great saint's eyes lit up. Though the painting depicted the scenery ahead, he saw the vast 3,000 great Tao within it. The rivers of Tao surged, ceaselessly flowing, like a kaleidoscope of myriad scenes before his eyes. Guan stopped his brush and handed the brush to the blood prison great saint. "You will finish the next part of the painting, and then show it to me." Leaving these words behind, Guan turned and left, the blood prison great saint holding the brush, his eyes filled with anticipation. He immediately forgot about Wuxi's expansion, focusing solely on painting. Guan walked into the mountains and arrived at the other end of the human world. Human World Peak. Heaven-defining peak. Sir the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Over 3 million years had passed, and he remained the peak master of heaven-defining peak. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Back in Supreme Sect, apart from being Gu An's disciple, an Xian was nothing remarkable in his eyes. Who would have thought that, from Supreme Sect, an Xian could reach this level? As they flew, passing through the cities, Leah was amazed by the spiritual aura of the beings along the way. All the beings here were engaging in immortal cultivation, and their levels were substantial. Nearly every city contained individuals surpassing celestial and earthly immortals, a foundation unmatched by the 9 major sections. Li Xianyu also marveled silently. Compared to his last visit, the continent had transformed significantly, even giving him the illusion that this was the real center of the celestial spirit great world. When the master-apprentice duo saw the cloud-enwrapped Wanjie Gate, they were even more astounded. Li Xianyu had seen it before but from a distance. Being closer allowed him to truly feel Wanjie Gate's vast aura, inspiring a sense of reverence. An Xian noticed Li Ya's astonishment and explained the origins and uses of Wanjie Gate. After understanding, Li Ya was even more impressed with junior brother Gus' Dao practice. Just how strong was junior brother Gu? He realized that the higher his own cultivation level, the greater the gap became between him and junior brother Gu. He did not feel disheartened because he knew it's not that his strength didn't grow fast enough, but the original gap was huge. Now he could see it more clearly. The four did not pause, and amidst Li Ya's continuous marveling, they finally reached the core dojo of Wuxia. He could sense an invisible, immense barrier separating the outside world. Stepping inside, the overwhelming Dao intent flooded towards him, filling him with an exhilarated sensation. "Li Ya, you rascal, you're still alive?" A cheerful laugh rang out. Li Ya turned to see a middle-aged man standing under a tree in the forest below, gazing up at them. Supreme Sect Zhua Yijian. He was here too. Li Ya was once again shocked because Zhua Yijian had also reached Zizai Immortal Realm. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible.